William Safir from Atlanta. Assalamu alaikum.
Imam, Executive Instructor Imam Adib Abdullah from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Assalamu alaikum. Ezekiel Abdullah from Atlanta, Georgia.
Salam.
Assalamu alaikum. Muhammad Alam Ali from El Sobrante, California, San Francisco Bay Area.
Wa alaikum salam.
Assalamu alaikum, Mikhail Abdul Samad, Dallas, Texas.
Sir. Wa alaikum salam. Big D in the house.
Assalamu alaikum, Winona Majid, Southern California.
Alaikum salam, Nona. How are you this evening?
Alhamdulillah.
Good.
And you?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. Thank you.
Alhamdulillah.
Keep it coming. Keep it coming.
Assalamu alaikum, Arlene Elamine, Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Wa alaikum salam. Arlene, how are you this evening?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
Good, good, good.
Diane from Shafika Abdullah from Atlanta, Georgia.
Assalamu alaikum, Shafiqa.
Walaikum
The other two sisters that were trying, you were.
Oh, Naima from Brooklyn.
Assalamu alaikum, Naima.
Walaikum salam.
Saeed Mujahid in the house.
Assalamu alaikum. Sure to announce where you're coming from, where you're calling from as well.
This is Diane from Cleveland.
Diane, how are you this evening?
Assalamu alaikum. Kareem Abdul Salam, Memphis, Tennessee.
Alaikum salam, Kareem. Alhamdulillah. Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you all.
Salam alaikum. Did I say Philadelphia, Pennsylvania? Did I?
I'm sure you did.
In the house?
How could you forget Philly?
Shukran. Salam alaikum, everybody.
Alhamdulillah. Alaikum salam.
Hey,
New York.
New York. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam, my people.
All right, let's keep it rolling. Announce yourself and where you're calling from.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Nevada Shabazz. I'm calling in from New Orleans tonight.
Wa alaikum salam, Naveda from New Orleans. How are you this evening?
Well rested, alhamdulillah.
Good, 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 good. I can't see it. I just got off the roof cleaning out. What do they call those things that catch all those leaves? Gutter.
Gutters, the gutters.
Yeah. All right, let's keep it coming now. What's your name and where you're calling from?
Kyle from Pennsylvania.
Kyle, how you doing?
How you doing?
Good, 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 good. Good to hear your voice, man.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
Assalamu alaikum. Ramzadeen Amin, Columbia, South Carolina.
Ramzadeen from Columbia. Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum. All right, let's keep it coming. Announce yourself and where you're calling from, please.
Amin Sharif, Charlotte, North Carolina.
Assalamu alaikum, Amin. Charlotte's in the house. Okay, we'll be getting started in just a few minutes. Inshallah. If you haven't announced yourself, please do so and where you're calling from.
This is Senior Instructor Habiba, Executive Senior Instructor Habiba, calling from Camden, New Jersey.
Camden, New Jersey is in the house. Assalamu alaikum, Habib.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, everybody's well.
Inshallah. Keep it coming, please. Announce yourself and where you're calling from.
Assalamu alaikum. Instructor Benjamin Bilal calling from North Kakalaki.
Alaikum salam. North Kakalaki was in the house.
Kakalaki. Okay, so you can open up for us, my friend, and let's get this linguistic party started. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, hear you fine.
Excellent.
Clear.
Very
Yes.
good.
All right. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. I thought I would start this evening reading the letter that instructor sent out a while back. It really captures the essence of what Nunetics is all about. Because Nunetics is a linguistic science based on the Arabic letter Nun, which means seed. Instead of beginning the study of Arabic with root words, Nunetics identifies firstly the seed letters out of which root words are born. All roots are the products of seeds. This is knowledge which has been lost to Muslims for over 1,000 years. Even Muhammad the prophet is reported to have said that every letter has its own singular and unique meaning. This hadith is recorded in the well-known volumes of Bukhari and Muslim. Nunetics Institute Incorporated was created and incorporated by Imam Benjamin Bilal in 2019 as a linguistic arts presentation whose main focus is on the accurate understanding of Fitra-based Arabic letters. Its motto is, quote, "Seed letters produce root words which sprout branches of knowledge." This idea was inspired by Imam W.D. Muhammad's teaching on the hidden meanings of English letters upon his return from Egypt in 1976. Imam Muhammad was asked in 1983 whether each Arabic word had its own meaning, also to which he replied, "Yes, but you all are not ready for that yet." The details of Nunetics can be studied in the book penned by Instructor Bilal by that same name. You will be able to purchase any one of his 19 books off the Nunetics website, which will go live on December 1. Matter of fact, it has gone live, 2023, by going to the link nuneticsinstitute.org. Nunetics was established as a learning system in 2007 as a means of identifying deeper and more precise meanings of Quranic words based on their letter connections to the Fitra, i.e. Mother Nature. The Nunetics method has now grown to include learners from across the United States and from countries such as Sierra Leone, Pakistan, Egypt, Bangladesh, Saudi Arabia, Malaysia, Kenya, and South Africa. Instructor Bilal teaches a weekly session every Sunday called the University Online Learning Center. Of course, that's what you're listening to now, you're a part of now, which teaches the fundamentals of the Nunetics, along with his religious, political, and social commentary, mostly based on Imam W.D. Muhammad's profound language and logic. Each Arabic letter is based in Allah. And Allah says in 30 verse 30, "Do not let there be any alterations in his fitra." These fitra meanings are expressed through Nunetics on three levels. Number one, a part of the human body. Number two, as something in the environment. And number three, as an abstract meaning. So with that, I think we're ready.
Excellent. I enjoyed that. Thank you very much.
Yes.
That was Senior Instructor William Safir, for those who might not be familiar with him. And if you're not familiar with him, it's because you're very new.
I like to say, Alhamdulillah, Shukran Jazilan, Brother William, and I'm going to mute myself off. I had to give you that. Excellent job.
Yeah, he deserved that. Many of you deserve accolades for the excellent job that you're doing with and for Nunetics Institute, which means that you're doing it for yourself, because I'm sure that if you've been a part of this Nunetics experience, that you have been growing and evolving along the path also. And we're happy to have you along on this journey. There are going to be some twists and turns in the very near future. And all you have to do is hold on to the sides of your seat, hold on to your khimar and your kufi, and you'll be all right. All right, still letting people in here. So we thank you for being with us on this 18th day of December, 2022. Fast approaching 2023. And again, there are going to be quite a few, maybe even unexpected twists and turns and changes, but trust me, it'll be like the twists and turns and changes that every about to be born baby goes through right before the point of delivery. In fact, the baby actually turns upside down and becomes a sort of projectile as he or she exits the mother's comfort, the mother's womb, and the mother's direct nutrition. And the baby then has to live on its own. Well, that's about to happen for all of you Nunetics learners. So depending on when you came in, how you came in, and why you came in, consider yourselves to be a part of this Nunetics experience and to be nurtured by the information that we've been attempting to provide for you through the meaning of every one of these Arabic letters. me one moment while I mute everyone. Okay. And we'll ask you not to unmute unless there's a necessary question or point of information that needs to be made or asked. Again, thank you very, very much for being with us this evening. We're going to go straight to our notes. We're dealing with a part 3 subject of nature versus nurture. Somehow it ends up being one of the most popular topics that I've ever given in terms of the numbers of people who view it. People must be very, very interested in this topic. And I think it's because it directly relates to their own unique growth and development. And we need to be able to distinguish what kinds of influences are taking place within us as human beings. Are we just creatures of physical growth? And most of us know that we're not just that, although, you know, the rulers, quote unquote, of society tend to treat us like that, as though we're just cattle waiting to be fatted up and slaughtered at their disposal. But we know as individuals who study nature, we know as individuals who have a belief in a source creator, especially, that the source creator could not have created us to be just what the cow is, or what the sheep are, or what the animals and the insects are. I think we, just based on common sense and common logic, know that we were put here, brought here into this existence to be more than just the housefly, you know, as an existence. I mean, those lives are precious also, but there's no way in the world a housefly or a dog or a monkey can make the kind of progress that Allah has clocked into the human being to make. So that's what we've been addressing. And we've been using Quranic logic in order to establish those positions vis-a-vis the human being's growth and development. So for as long as you stay tuned, and as long as you keep checking in and checking on the progress that we're making, you're going to be benefiting. It's just a natural result of your participation. So thank you once again. I said all of that to let you know that I personally appreciate each and every one of you individually as well as collectively. So let's pull up our notes and see what we have on the table today. All right. And here we go. And this is not just any topic or any talk, if you will, that's going to speak on nature and nurture. I mean, if you Google nature versus nurture on YouTube, you're going to get at least 4 or 5 different lectures that people are giving on this particular topic, but they're not going to be anywhere near what it is Instructor Benjamin Bilal has been presenting to you and will continue to present to you. Trust that. We're talking about nature versus nurture according to the fitrah. That's the difference. Nature versus nurture according to Allah's fitrah. And if you're not aware of what the word fitrah means as an Arabic term in the Quran, it simply refers to nature. That will be explained to you with more detail in just a moment. But the subject is nature versus nurture. And we don't mean versus as in the idea of opposition. We're not talking about how nature is in opposition to nurture and the foolish kinds of arguments that many scientists and pseudoscientists are having back and forth with each other. You know, nature's no good, nurture's good. Nurture's no good. You need to just leave people alone to just be what nature created them to be. No, and they see these things as contending forces. We live in a world of academics that needs to make everything a contention. You see? And that began through the mismanagement and the misreading of scripture. For the Western world, that began when they pitted Cain against Abel and told you that God did it. You know, and we can't help it. We just have to be against something or someone. But that idea does not hold water when it comes to the study of the fitrah itself. The fitrah has duality, but it has complementary tools that get together, get along in order to go along and eventually grow along with each other to reach the final destiny that the creator has clocked into that creature to achieve. So, you know, your mother and father, they don't have to be against each other. Now, some of us have grown to see parental disputes as being natural. You know, if they don't fight once or twice a day, they're not still married, you know, that kind of thing. But that's not the case. People will say, well, I got to say something negative about the white man every day, or I'm not going to feel that good about that day unless I say something negative about what the white man is doing. And you got some so-called white people that are saying the same thing. You know, the reason why the world is effed up is because of them Negroes. See, they think that we have been created somehow as natural enemies, natural opponents to each other. And I say again, according to the Fitrah, if you study nature, you're going to find out that that is not true. Show me a whole nother portion of creation where the black ones in that creation are against the white ones in that creation. I don't see black houseflies fighting and arguing with maggots. They share the same environment. They'll both go in and out of your garbage can and stay where filth is and look for crap to land on and all of that. But I don't see them as being against each other by virtue of the idea of them being two different colors. You go to the beach, you're going to see brown rocks and maybe white rocks next to those and maybe yellow stones next to those. And I don't see those different color stones getting up and throwing stones at the other one because they're not as brown as we are. And as I say it to yourself, as you say it to yourself, as I say it to myself, you hear how dumb that sounds. So there's no contention based on these surface realities that we accept as the real us. The brownness of my skin, that's the real me, or the blackness of my skin, or the kinkiness of my hair, or the fluid nature of my hair. The way I'm able to just do that, that makes me better than the other girl who can't do this in school because she's got too much sponge. See, that's ridiculous just listening to it. So those are the things that we're dealing with in attempting to clarify, and more importantly, to clean up the mess that has been left by drunken minds pretending to be scholars and scientists and knowledgeable people. So we're going to continue into this, what I call a sneak peek into semester number 20, which is right around the corner. It begins on January 1st. If you haven't gotten that new semester, you know what, then you need to work on that or say something to me, because the doors will certainly close and we're going to be actually verging off to a great degree from the YouTube platform that you've been used to. And we will be using as our new platform, rumble.com. I've been sending you emails to that effect. So you need to really read the emails when I send them to you if you're not doing so, because it's going to be a swift change, but not an unanticipated one. I've been telling you this for months now. It's going to be very important that you're in, that you are registered, and that you are participating as much as possible from week to week, from month to month, from this point on, because the information, as I said, is literally going to be life-saving. A lot of changes taking place in this world. And if you're not truly, truly invested in understanding what the future is about to bring, and not even the long-term future, I'm talking about short-term future, begin with the first 6 months of 2023. And I will be explaining it to you as best I can based on how I see it. And I'll be bringing you as much Quranic corroboration as I can put my hands on, inshallah. And we ask Allah to help us in that endeavor. So this is just a sneak peek into what I call the level of excellence that we will be bringing to you as far as the information goes. There's a particular level of information we're bringing. And Allah has also blessed us to bring heightened levels of information that are not too high for those of you who might consider yourselves to be too low to understand. This is not an academic exercise, so much so that if you don't have a PhD or a master's degree or degree in English and literature or Arabic literature or whatever, and you don't have that, you can still learn from this class. In fact, you might be one who learns better than the ones who come with the degrees. because sometimes the degrees can get in your way, whereas your common logic, your common everyday common sense thinking, Allah created that to push the way forward for you in terms of your understanding of what's happening in you and around you. So don't despair if you're only a high school graduate. Whether you realize it or not, I've said it on several occasions, and I'm not embarrassed to say it. I'm only a high school graduate. I don't have a lick of college to my name, except for a couple of Black history and African history classes that I sat in on at the City University of New York. I sat in on those classes for a semester so I could bone up on the subjects, but I don't have any college degrees to boast of. Doesn't mean I won't go back and get some, at least one, but I don't feel I need them. And obviously, according to the work that's been put forth for the past, over 30 years of me doing this now, I didn't need it to get where I am today. So just keep that in mind. That's for you people who are struggling academically. Don't feel bad about yourself. Never feel bad about what you don't know. Always feel bad about what it is you don't want to know. See, when knowledge is being offered to you and you don't want to know, yeah, I hear you, man. It sounds right and all, but I ain't got time for that, man. I gotta go watch the 76ers. I gotta go watch the Bulls game. Or yeah, you'll be watching the Bulls game until the Bulls come home with the cows. That's called judgment. And then you have to explain to Allah why you rejected better information pertaining to your Quran, and you say you're a Muslim. So you have to think about these questions. And Allah did not put it in the hands of any scholar, any teacher, any professor, any instructor to be the reason why you achieve. He put it in you to be the reason why you achieve, because you will achieve anything that you pay attention to. And anything that you pay attention to, as we always say, will expand. It can be foolishness. We'll know it because your life will be reflecting foolishness. Or it can be serious attitude, and we'll know it because your life, the life of the people around you, the life of the children that you're raising, they're going to also reflect that level of seriousness, if Allah wills. So nature versus nurture. Pardon me. Give me one moment to get reoriented here. Okay. All right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, with Allah's signature, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. The Quranic Arabic word Rahmah, spelled R-A-H-M-A-H, as transliterated. That Quranic word, Rahmah, and as I pronounce these words, you should be doing the same behind your muted microphones at home. The word Rahmah has been translated as mercy. However, it does not represent the absence of cruelty. Instead, it is indicative of the level of mercy which helps to regulate the growth and development of any and all living things. So if we're participating in the beatdown of somebody on the block or in the schoolyard or whatever, and your teacher comes out and say, leave that boy alone, you know, and you say, okay, I'm gonna leave him alone today, man, but you better watch yourself in the lunchroom tomorrow, see? And you see that as you having mercy on that. That's not mercy. Not according to the Quran, not according to the word Rahmah. So let's talk about the difference. It does not represent the absence of being cruel. It is indicative of the level of mercy which helps to regulate the growth and development of any and all living things. Rahmah, as a Quranic Arabic word, is related to the Arabic word Rahm, spelled R-A-H-M, Rahm. And Rahm is the Arabic word for womb, W-O-M-B. All living things which grow inside of wombs need warmth as a factor in their development, in their transition, and in their delivery into the world. All living things which grow inside of wombs. Now, if we're talking about reptiles and, turtles and iguanas and snakes and that kind of thing, they're born inside of cold eggs or out of cold eggs. They don't need warmth. They don't need a mother necessarily sitting on the eggs in order for them to produce new life. The mother could be yards away when that reptile is born. But for all mammals, we're talking about mammals. It is only the mammals to which Raham and Rahma and the word Arham in the Quran, that's the plural for wombs. It only applies to mammals. And the human being, he and she are mammals also. But it doesn't apply to dragons and, that kind of thing. All right. Dinosaurs, if you believe in those, right? No, we're talking about mammalian life. Let's look at the letters that comprise the word Rahmah. They are the three letters Ra, Ha, that's the heavy Ha, and Mim. Let's look at what each one of these mean and then present to you a sentence that makes sense. One moment. The Arabic letter Ra represents evolutionary movement. It's not just movement. It's movement wherein after the movement is made, there's some progress that can be measured. So it's not just movement out, it's also movement upwards in an evolutionary way. Just like the birds might take off from Earth and first they'll fly past you, right? But eventually the bird is going to begin to take an upwards trajectory. We call that an evolutionary movement. Okay, so that's Ra, that's the first letter in the word Rahmah. So we know if we don't know anything else about what Allah means when he says Rahmah, or when he says that he is Ar-Rahman, which is from that same root letter word, we at least know that there's something about Allah that represents movement as it affects you and all other living things, and also, and more importantly, I should say, evolutionary movement. Movement that increases your worth is what we're talking about when we talk about evolutionary movement. Movement that increases your human value. So now, just knowing that about the letter Ra, you can take that same Ra and apply it now to one of Allah's names called the Rabb. And that's why we call him the creator and evolver. See, that's evolution, the evolver and sustainer. You see that? That's just how the bird does. The bird hops off of the earth, flapping its wings, developing momentum. And instead of just going this way horizontally, it begins to make a vertical climb, and then it sustains that level of flight. And very often it can do it without continuing to flap its wings, as Allah says in the Quran. Allah sustains them. So each and every word of the Quran is given to us in these kinds of comparative analyses, where there are narratives and there are sayings and there are other tidbits of wisdom that are explaining the very letter system that Allah has chosen to present this final revelation in. That is Quranic Arabic, not just Arabic. Don't make that mistake. You give all the credits to the Arabs. They deserve a lot of credit for a lot of things that they've done, but they don't deserve credit for the language that Allah chose for his final revelation, because it's not just linguistic Arabic. The Arabic that Allah has chosen for this last revelation is actually the language of the Fitrah. It's not the language of the Arab. The Arabs have their language. It's called Arabic, Arabia, but that's not what Allah calls what is in the Quran. He calls it Arabia Mubin, among other things. And they translate that as clear Arabic. Well, how is it clear if I don't speak ethnic Arabic? It's only clear to the Arabs? That's not fair. Because that's not what Allah is talking about. If he called it Mubin, that means that whatever the content is, and whatever context that content is surrounded by, in terms of what Allah is discussing, you should be able to identify it in a very, very clear and distinguishing factor or way. And you might say, well, instructor, how can I do that if I don't know the language of Arabic? Well, your task is to at least learn the alphabet system. That's it. Just learn the alphabet system and understand that that Arabic alphabet system, as is the case for all Semitic or Afro-Asiatic languages, those letters are connected to items and objects within Mother Nature. So all you have to do is learn what each of those 28, 29 actually, Arabic letter glyphs, what they are connected to in nature. That's all. Your task is over after that, unless you choose to go further, as many of us have. The further you go, the bigger, the brighter the blessing of understanding the Quran is going to be. But if you want a cursory idea of what the Quran is speaking about, you at least need to dedicate yourself to the learning of Arabic letters. And that's what the system of Nunetics is all about, that you keep hearing us talk about. Nunetics, an understanding of every Arabic letter, letter by letter, and not what it means in the madrasa in Kuwait somewhere, or in Cairo somewhere. We're talking about those letters as symbols and reflections of concrete things in Allah's creation, called El-Fitra, beginning with things that you have access to because they are parts of your own human body. All of those letters are found on your human body. So who needs to tell you what the parts of your body do? You should already know that. And if you don't, then you pull out your dictionaries and your encyclopedias and your Wikipedia and your teachers, professors, parents, friends who know stuff, and you begin to ask them, say, what does my nose do? What does my open mouth do? I mean, these are the meanings of Arabic letters. Fa, the open mouth of fa. See, it's right there looking at you. Fa, what does that mean? What happens when you open your mouth? What are the reasons for opening your mouth? What's in the mouth to be viewed once you open it? See, it's that kind of thing. What's at the back of the throat? If I say kha, and that's a sound from the back of the throat, what's happening back there with my larynx? And I mean, there's a cavity back there. What happens when I swallow food? What happens when it passes that part of the back of my throat? That's how studious you have to become if you intend to make progress in this new linguistic science called the Nunetics. It's unlike anything that you've ever been introduced to, at least in your lifetime. You would probably have to have lived 100 centuries ago to have run into this system when it was being taught by the earliest followers of Muhammad the Prophet. There's even a very well-known hadith that speaks to that fact, that the Prophet is reported to have said that every letter has its own meaning. And he went on to say, I don't mean Alif, Lam, Mim as the beginning abbreviated letters of a particular surah. He said, I mean that Alif has its own meaning. Lam has its own meaning. Mim has its own meaning. These are the teachings of Muhammad the Prophet, not Instructor Bilal. I wasn't here 1,500 years ago. I didn't leave that knowledge. That's in a Bukhari Muslim hadith. So you can stop arguing with Instructor Bilal in your own head, of course, because no one has been bold enough to argue with me in my face, not even by text or not even by email has anyone. I don't even see any not likes on the videos. Every video I see that we produce, if it's not a like, it's not a dislike. So that should tell you something. So when you understand these letters, you will understand more clearly, more perfectly, actually, what Allah is actually saying to you in a language that you can decipher, because it's the language of nature. That's what the fitrah is. It's nature. And Arabiya Mubin is the reading that you are able to decipher based on nature's presentation, because nature's presentations are full of clarity. If you study nature long enough and you dedicate yourself to the study of what nature is actually producing, this is how people know how plants grow. Do you think you could know how a plant grows by just planting a seed and walking away and forgetting about it? No, you have to come back the next day and see if there's any progress, evolution, if you will, right? In that seed that you planted. We used to do that all of the time as grade schoolers. The teacher would even give us a little pot that we would in the classroom plant a seed or a couple of seeds or a few seeds into, and she'd say, take this home for the summer and observe it. See, you have to observe it. Whatever you observe, whatever you give your attention to is going to expand. So I couldn't wait to get up the next morning. And I look in the pot and nothing had happened. So I get up the next morning after that and I look in the pot, nothing cracking. Literally, I don't see any cracks in the soil. I don't see any leaves trying to push up. I don't see, and then 3 and 4, and I'm becoming despondent with my little 8-year-old self, impatient. And then I come back the 5th day. Ooh, buddy. That little plant is starting to push its way up. Of course, that's after my mother encouraged me to put a little bit more water in the dry soil. I'm so busy looking for the product that I'm forgetting to do all of the necessary things to assist this plant in its journey, in its evolution and its development. But once I do that, and she says, move it from over there to the windowsill where it can catch some of that sunlight, man, oh man, once I put all of those factors in operation, and now, zowie, here comes this plant. And I feel so good. I feel like I participated in its growth and development. And I did. Wouldn't have happened to that plant without me. This is how you need to teach your children and your grandchildren. Participation in the journey of living things within nature. You, grandson, granddaughter, you can participate in that evolution. Yes, Allah gave you all of the necessary factors to make that happen. But Allah, out of his rahmah, decided with his wisdom to allow you to participate to the degree that you can actually get some credit. It's not the credit that Allah will get, because he did everything from Jump Street. When nothing was there, he created something out of nothing. We can't do that. We always need something to begin with, and then we can jump in and start being creators with a small c. Allah is the source creator with a capital C. So we have that evolutionary movement in Rahmah. What is this heavy letter Ha? There's a lighter Ha in the alphabet. That's not the one we're talking about. Like the H at the end of Allah, that's the light H. But the H in the word Hayya, come lively, that's the H we're talking about. The H in the word Rahmah. So you have to pronounce it with that breath. And when you put your hand in front of your mouth and say Rahmah or Ha, you immediately feel the warmth. It's not going to come out cold, even if you're standing in the cold. That letter Ha is going to come out warm every time. And that's why people blow in their hands when their hands are cold, because Allah has created the human system to produce warm air. When we say Ha, ha, see, that's warm. We're talking about fitrah-based meanings for Quranic Arabic words. And the word mubin, when Allah says Arabiya mubin, mubin is from the verb bana, and it alludes to children, sons and daughters. For son, we say bin, bin or ibn. For daughter, we simply put the tab marbuta, feminine ending on it, and it's bint, but it's the same word. The product of a mother and father, a child, a son or a daughter. So mubin comes from that same root. The mu part of mubin is a prefix. It's not a part of the word. It's only the B and the N that are a part of that word. So it can be bin, it can be bun, it can be ban, Bani Israel. You hear it in it, the children of Israel. Or they say sons, as they like to be chauvinistic about it. But it means the children, male and female, of Israel, right? So Mubin is saying the same thing. My name is Benjamin. That means son of the right hand. Son of the right hand. Ben means son. Jamin from Yamin in Hebrew. Yamin, we say in Arabic, it means the right hand. So as you learn these little tidbits of insight and wisdom, you're going to be able to go into the Quran and you won't get past the first page that you land on, because there'll be so many jewels jumping out at you. Say, study me, learn me. I got something to tell you now that you know that much. It's a beautiful journey, I'm telling you. So what is Mubin saying? If the BN, bin, ibn, bint, that BN means child, look at the wisdom when you study the fitrah of the child. If I'm standing in front of you and I am the child standing between my mother and my father, listen carefully. I'm standing before you because you can't have a child without a mother and a father somewhere in the picture. So my mother's standing here. I'm 2 years old or 3 years old or maybe 5 years old. And my father is standing here. And you are looking at us straight on, straight forward. It is absolutely and positively clear to you who the child is. So what is Allah saying in his wisdom? He is saying that Arabiya makes it possible for you to distinguish between two things. That's what Arabiya means. It's the ability to distinguish between this and that. You can distinguish between truth and falsehood. You can distinguish between serious matters and foolishness. You can distinguish between real circumstances and situations and artificially crafted circumstances and situations. That's what the Arabiya of the Quran allows you to do, because it is mubin. As soon as you look at it, you say, that's the inferior. That's not that one in the middle ain't running nothing. I got to check with the grown-ups in this scenario. He's a professor, but he's a child as far as his understanding of the fitrah is concerned. He wants to manipulate the DNA and put in false RNA, and he appears to be an adult with an adult-sized brain, but he's really just a child. I have to take over from here. I have to make these decisions. I cannot allow this childish mentality to make serious decisions for me as an adult, not when I have the Quran in front of me. It is absolutely beautiful when you understand it. Let's continue. Arabiya Mubin, remember that. Clear Arabic, distinguishable, allows you to distinguish. So we have the Ra taken care of as evolutionary movement. We have the Ha, which is pot belly breathing. And if you don't know what pot belly breathing is, check with any newborn infant. Just study the movement of their belly, because that's where they get pot belly movement from, pot belly breathing. The baby is the only human being on earth that has been able to maintain his and her proper fitra-based breathing. You have to watch it. And then watch how you breathe. Watch when your belly inflates. At what point in your intake and exhalation of breath does your belly swell? You're going to find out that your belly is swelling at exactly the opposite way, in the opposite way as the infant. And Allah taught the infant, somebody retaught you, but retaught you incorrectly. That's a class for another day. We're talking about returning to the fitrah, back to the fitrah. If you look at the figure called the Buddha, B-U-D-D-H-A, Buddha is how it's pronounced. And you see that Buddha has this big belly. If you turn that belly profile, as you have seen in my books, Nunetics, and some other books, that Buddha's belly from the neck down is the shape of the Arabic heavy letter Ha. It's the Buddha's belly. And don't think that Muslims, or Arabs at least, were not in touch with the ancient people of Tibet, the ancient people of many of these Eastern cultures, the Hindus, many other people of India. They understood this. They had this information. So that Ha represented for them that heavy breathing. It's also meditative breathing. If you want to meditate correctly, you have to learn how to breathe correctly. And that breath is going to do several things. But one of the major things that that type of breathing does is that it brings warmth to the body. So a lot of those people from those ancient cultures, they can actually sit out in the cold. Those monks, they can sit out in the freezing cold with just a sheer piece of material around their bodies, like a bed sheet type of material. And they can breathe, and they can meditate, and they can do so effectively that they begin to sweat in 0-degree weather. Look it up. This is real. They begin to sweat because they have mastered the technique for bringing huge amounts of warmth into the body through breathing. So this letter Ha came to represent that type of breath, that type of breathing that warms the body and that sends out warmth to those in front of it. Ha. It produces warmth. So look at what we have so far as a sentence. We have the evolutionary movement of breathing, breath, air expulsion that produces warmth. Now, what is being warmed would be the end of this sentence. Meme. Meme as something operating inside of you has to do with your emotional life. So start thinking about whether or not you are being warm to even yourself, but to the people around you. When you wake up in the morning in your household, do you give a good morning greeting to the people in the household? I see them all the time. I don't need to, they know I love them. No. Did you say to them, yeah, I love you, man, just in case I don't see you for the rest of our lives. Anything could happen to any one of us. I just want to let you know, sister, big sister, thank you for all that you've done for me. And give that big sister a hug. or that big brother a hug, or uncle, or whoever it is that's been taking care of you and looking out for you, especially your mother and father. Say, Dad, I know I haven't said this to you in a month of Sundays, but I really love you, man. And I respect my children. I mean, I get goosebumps every time they say that to me. They say it to me every time they see me. Dad, I love you, man. Come on. You know, and sometimes we get a group hug, you know. Between Kareem and I, we have 11 children. That's a group hug right there. And we do it every single time we get together, because in reality, you never know if you'll ever see those people again, or if they'll ever see you again. That's warmth. That's heavy affecting your emotional life. So emotions are given the symbol water, because just like somebody can touch your emotions and make you ripple, like I ripple every time they say, I love you, Dad. That same water, however, can become very, very frigid to the point where it loses its fluidity and it begins to become solid as ice. So sometimes we say about people, man, he's got feelings as cold as ice. You remember Rick James sang that song? You were cold as ice so long ago. Yeah, because the water takes on different shapes based on the temperature. So water can freeze or it can be cooled. But isn't it so nice when you go to take that bath and you put your little tippy toe in that water and it's too hot sometimes. You gotta let it cool off a little bit. Run some cold water in it until it's just the right temperature for your body's comfort. And you go on and do what you need to do, taking that bath or taking that shower. Warm water. Oh man, you can't beat that. So that is what water is symbolic of, the temperature, if you will, of your emotionality. However, in order for new life to appear, that air should be warm. Everything as a biology that grows with the assistance of warm air. Okay, somebody slipped through the crack. Yeah, it happens with the assistance of with the assistance of a warm air. All right, if you've ever seen a baby born, and of course, if you're a mother, you've witnessed it. As soon as the baby comes out of the womb, they wrap it in a blanket, but you'll see the baby shaking because the baby just came out of a tremendously warm environment. The womb is warm. It hits this air, no matter what the temperature is. Oh my goodness, what are they doing to me? What am I doing here? You understand? It's beautiful when you understand it, all right? They've made a transition from a very warm environment, Rahm, womb, to an environment now that is subject to the vicissitudes of the environmental temperature. It's no longer being regulated by the inside of my mother's belly. Now I have to stand here and deal with the slings and arrows of winter, spring, summer, fall, and what you feel like dressing me in. It's a different world now, right? So let's look at this as a sentence. Rahma, movement of warm emotions. That's what rahma is, as mercy. Not when you keep that warm emotion, that cuddly feeling to yourself, and you do like, I think it's Snoopy. No, not Snoopy. What's that other dog in that cartoon? Dudley Do-Right, I think it was, where you throw him a biscuit and he's just loving himself. But he don't like showing a whole lot of warmth and affection to other people. He's snarling and biting at them, you know. So that's not a rahma. Rahma is when you recognize those warm feelings of tenderness and compassion even, and you actively seek to share that warmth with other people, even with people that you don't necessarily know. That's how the European, on the most part in history, was able to make such major progress when entering onto the content of so-called Africa. Because the people who they first encountered there, to the Europeans' surprise, probably, were very warm and inviting people. Come in, eat our food, look at us dance. We will show you what we know, how to hunt and how to, how to sing and keep the rhythm. We will teach you, come on. So they found those people being so warm and inviting and compassionate and huggy, kissy and all of that, that the European called them the children of Ham. You get it now? The children of Ham, meaning the children of warm disposition, warm human feelings for each other. Later on, they finagled the language to make Ham mean black. Ham does not mean black. Oh, we're the Hamites, we're the black people. No, that's not what it originally meant. It became black, but it started out as warm. And just use the scenario of you baking some biscuits in the oven. You turn the oven on, it begins to increase its heat by degrees, and eventually it will reach a status where the warmth that is within the oven will begin to cook the biscuits, bake the biscuits, and the biscuits will become brown because of the warmth that's being discharged by the oven. However, if you're not paying attention to the biscuits and to the oven, you're busy looking at the game, you're busy on the phone, you made a mistake and left the house, forgetting that you had biscuits in the oven. Now, when you come back, there's going to be a whole lot of smoke. And the biscuits will more than likely be blackened. So ham, meaning black, is just as the result of keeping something in an environment for too long a time. Just like they kept the Africans, who they took from Africa and brought to these parts of the world, America, North America, South America, the islands. We were warm people. That's why they chose us. Oh, they could be our mammies. They could raise our children. Because these people are warm. We can trust them to cook our food without worrying about them trying to poison us. These are warm human people. But they kept us in a particular environment too long. And because they kept us in this environment too long, we went from just being warm people to being black people. You should stop calling yourselves black people. I don't care what your pastor said or what your college professor said in Black Studies class. Never allow yourself to refer to human beings with adjectives that we don't even accept for animal life. You get yourself a dog, and people ask you, what kind of dog is that? You don't say a black dog, even if it's black. That's a Labrador, whatever. That's a collie. That's my brown and white collie. But you don't say that's my brown and white dog. You refer to it not by some lesser than valuable adjective or color description. You refer to it by what it does or by how it looks, or you compare it to something else that looks similar. It's a retriever. It retrieves things. I throw this out, it will bring it back. I send it out to get a duck, it's going to bring me back a duck. That's what it does. So my name for this creature is based on what the creature does, not how the creature looks. Very valuable lesson for us going into 2023. So because those Africans were as warm and considerate as they were given the term Ham, the children of Ham. And if Ham was such a bad label, Allah would not have stuck it in the middle of Muhammad's name. Mu means one who is Hamad. He got a lot of ham in him too. And I don't mean the kind that turned into a jokester or a comedian. Oh, he's a big ham, not that one. That's what it was reduced to, because people of warmth are seen also within the context of comedians and people who make you laugh. If they see you come in and you all tight, they start telling little jokes to kind of loosen you up and make you warm. So let you know, I'm not here to hurt you, man. Listen, let me tell you this joke about these two farmers I met. And they go on to tell you the joke, and you like, and after a while, if the jokes are funny enough, you go, oh, stop it, right? And you start to sweat, you start to feel warm. Oh, man, I can't take no more, man. That's Ham. But because they put it in the Bible and they finagled the true meanings of Ham, it was passed down to the entire world as something negative and applied to so-called Black people all over the planet. The Hamites, the big hams, the people who are good for nothing but telling jokes. That's how they treat us still today, you know. But that's not what it means. So if you're going to use it, go back to its original context. People of extreme compassion, extreme mercy, extreme warmth when it came to human interactions and human relationships. You see the word ham in human, hum, humid, hum. You are supposed to be ham man, human, wherever you're from as a human, you're supposed to be ham in the mind, hum, man, hum, man, use hum frequency. See, you're supposed to be operating on a particular frequency that allows you to remain compassionate. Let's move on. So rahma is the movement of a warm emotion. If that's you, claim it. If it's not you, work on it. Nature is represented by Ar-Rahman, whose quantitative benefits, quantitative simply means the benefits of the things that it presents to you as amounts of things, measures of things. That's quantitative, the quantity of things that you come into. So let's listen to this again. Nature is connected to the attribute of Allah called Ar-Rahman, whose quantitative benefits reach all life forms as a default setting. So nature gives us the sun, S-U-N. Now, who does the sun benefit? Everything within its register. Does the sun say, I'm going to shine on the so-called white people, and when the Black people come out to play, I'm going to turn all of my attention to the Chinese people? No, the sun is going to say, whoever's out, enjoy. Enjoy the benefits of the splendor of what I'm presenting to you, because I'm indiscriminate. I give benefits to everything, the flowers, the trees, the ants. If you're under a rock and you crawl from under the rock, you're going to get some of this sunshine. Some of you trying to hide from me under the rock in the cave. I'm going to get you eventually, because I have been created by my source creator to give of my benefits without measure, without count. Does that sound familiar? Allah gives without counting. That's Ar-Rahman doing that. What Imam W.D. Muhammad called the merciful benefactor. See, a benefactor, that person doesn't depend on you knowing who they are before they give you something. Yeah, I like to give this student $10,000 to complete their college education, but unless you tell them it was me who did it, I'm not giving them no money. That's not a benefactor. A benefactor is someone who says, don't tell who's doing it. Let them be surprised. See? It's wonderful when you understand it. So Allah is Ar-Rahman, the merciful benefactor. No matter what the creature is or how the creature has been living, it receives these benefits as a result of the workings of the fitrah, i.e. Mother Nature. And by Mother Nature, we're referring now to life in the vast universe. Whatever life is taking place in the universe is what we're calling al-fitrah, Mother Nature. Nature, however, is neutral. Nature, that's what you should be teaching your children, your grandchildren, and your students in school. Say nature is neutral. Neutral means neither here nor there. Nature produces males, nature produces females. That's what nature does. It does not discriminate. Nature, however, is neutral and will seemingly punish creatures as a result of their tendency to perform acts which cause harm or which violate intelligence. So in the Quran, when Allah uses the term Ar-Rahman, it's not always in relation to what you call mercy. Some of the most serious issues that deserve punishment on people are put alongside the term Ar-Rahman in the Quran, particularly the so-called Day of Judgment and the Day of Standing. Both of those concepts are introduced in the Quran right besides the one that Allah in the Quran is calling Ar-Rahman, the one that's going to mete out the justice. Does that sound like mercy as you've been taught mercy? I don't think so. Because it's neutral. If whatever you deserve is what you're going to get. Yeah, it's beautiful when you understand it. If I'm a benefactor and I've been giving money for this person to complete a college education, and then I find out that they've been using it for drugs and alcohol and party time in college, do you think as a benefactor now, am I going to continue supplying them with free money that was supposed to be earmarked for a particular thing that they said they were going to do? No, I'll cut you off. Man, it'd be so quick. You'll be wondering what happened to that money. That's a benefactor. Indiscriminate, based on how you act, is going to determine how the benefits flow or cease to flow. If someone were to keep giving you those benefits, knowing that you're violating their trust, it would not be intelligent. And the fitrah respects intelligence. There's intelligence running through your body right now. We're not talking about the intellect right now. We're talking about intelligence, the internal telling or communicating coming from the gens or the genes. Allah put intelligence in your very DNA, RNA makeup. Intelligence is running throughout your body, and it's going to work for you to no ends as long as you continue to do the right thing for that body. Now, when you prove to your own body that you have it out for your body, that you have no respect for that body anymore, that you don't care what you feed it, you don't care, if it gets sunshine or stays in the house and becomes gray-skinned, I don't care. I'm just a lazy, no good son of a muffin. You know what I'm talking about. And you show that you don't have a respect for the internal communication of your own genetics that have been designed by the source creator to benefit you over and over. And if you just do a little bit to benefit it, it will do a lot to give you that return on your benefit. But when you continuously show your own self, your own body, And unfortunately, your own soul that I don't give a muffin. Yeah, I don't believe in no God over nothing. Man, eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. And those were higher up people saying that. When you begin to show that level of disposition and disrespect for nature, nature will come back at you with a vengeance. All nature has to do is be convinced that you really don't want to respect her and you're trying to fool her now, like the person would be trying to fool the benefactor into thinking they're doing the right thing with the money. But what does that commercial say? It's not nice to fool Mother Nature. Then comes the lightning and the thunder, right? And that's how nature is. It's not nice to think that you are smart enough to fool the thing that brought you into being. Nature was here before you, partner. And nature will be here way after you. If Allah wiped all of the humans off of the back of the earth, nature would still be here doing her thing. Yeah, the same nature that they've been teaching you most recently is your enemy. It has the virus. It's after you. Cover up your nose and your mouth when you go out into Mother Nature. Nature can kill you. Nature is after you. Nature, oh, this thing is going to be here for how many more decades, this virus, this disease, and it's looking to get your mama, your grandma. Make sure when grandma goes out, she's got that mask on. She's 85 years old. Make sure she's got the mask on. And they know all the mask is doing is sucking the rest of what's left of her air out of her lungs. How's that for reality? Does that sound like a rahmah to you? Allah's trying to give you rahmah. Breathe. While the conspirators are giving you Jahannam, hell, as your inheritance. So nature, I repeat, is neutral. And the only way you get punishment is when you consciously decide to buck nature, to go against the principles of intelligence that Allah has clocked into your DNA, RNA makeup. You start going against that, pick up a cigarette, light it, begin to puff on it, allow smoke to go into areas of your body where smoke was not designed to go. You end up getting black lung disease or throat cancer or whatever. You can't blame Allah for that. That was you bucking nature. And as I said, nature will come back at you with a vengeance. We're going to get wise studying these techniques of Nunetics and what all of these things in nature are saying to us. So don't violate your own intelligence is the point. So nature is not meting out this level of punishment consciously. Nature is doing this unconsciously. In fact, nature has no consciousness whatsoever. Nature has awareness. We spoke on this a couple of weeks ago. Nature is all aware. That's how nature knows how to grow your hair on top of your head and when to stop that growth. That's how nature knows how to activate your lungs and your heart and your blood flow and all of that. You say, well, Allah is doing that. Yeah, but he's doing it through the agency of his angels that we're calling nature. And he has clocked awareness into every part and parcel of nature that he has created. The sun is aware. The moon has an awareness. The air has an awareness. Everything that Allah has created within creation, he has created it with awareness. The stars, that's how they know what to do and when to do what it is they do. Not because they are consciously calculating those movements and those actions. No, but they have been made aware by their source creator. That's why they can talk back in the Quran when Allah is asking questions to the angels, or when Allah talks about offering the amana, the trust, to the mountains. And the mountain said, nah. You think the mountain said, nah, because they have a conscious brain? No, they have awareness. These are metaphors. It has awareness. The stars, the movement of the star, Sirius talked about in the Quran. the waxing and the waning of the moon, from full moon, al-qamar, to crescent moon, the hilal. All of these things have awareness. So when Allah allows them to speak in the Quran, he is using that as a metaphor for how nature is able to communicate with the human mind. Metaphorically, abstractly, not literally. Allah said to the heavens and the earth when they were in chaos, come ye together willingly or unwillingly. Do you think the heavens and the earth started speaking with vocal cords, teeth and tongue? We come willingly. Do you think that? If you think that, I have a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn. Sorry, you Brooklynites. Naima and you. Yeah, no. There's a bridge to sell you in some city if you believe that the heavens and the earth at one point in history and in the development of the creation itself coming together out of chaos into civilized behavior, if you will, that they began talking back to Allah. If you believe Iblis was talking back to Allah, you're still halfway out of your mind. You created me from fire. You created him from clay. I'm not going to submit. I'm not going to. Do you believe that a creature created by Allah called Iblis began speaking back with lips and tongue and teeth and breathing out air and in and out oxygen through them, seeing Allah and said, yeah, well, Allah, you said, and you think he's over there looking at Allah and Allah looking back at him, and Allah is letting this little raggedy piece of creation talk back to him? Where's the justification for that in the Quran? There is none, because it didn't happen. This is science beyond your belief. When you understand what the Quran is saying, it's way ahead of today's so-called modern science. But you have to be a fitra-oriented intellect in order to decipher it. All you have to do is take up nature as a regular occupation of study. That's all. You don't need a classroom for that. You don't need an instructor for that. All you have to do is look at the Quran. What is the Quran saying about the mountains? Okay, if I don't have mountains in my area, let me go into the dictionary or the encyclopedia and begin reading about the different kinds of mountains. Allah speaks about mountains that have red tops, black tops, white tops. Let me see if that's true. Let me go into the dictionary or the internet and ask the internet, what's up with these white-topped mountains? Is there any place in the world where all three of these mountains are found together? If Allah is speaking on it in the Quran, that means that it is a part of al-haq, the true reality, the purpose behind which Allah created that reality. All of that is al-haq. So let me begin to investigate and see if this is myth or if this is real. That's how Instructor Benjamin Bilal studies. And Imam Muhammad gave us a major hint in speaking on those three mountaintops in one of his lectures. He said that it's also representative of the three leading divisions in the world when it comes to ethnicity. The people who developed geography and the people who began studying ethnic differences in the world originally divided the world up into three types. One was the Asian type, one was the European type, and the third one was the African stock or the African type. Listen to this carefully. The Asian type came to be signified by the color red. Right now, we speak about so-called Chinese people as being so-called red people. Sometimes the so-called Indian as being red people, because red typified the entire regions of the world that contain the so-called Asian people. The Asians were the red tops of the mountains. The white tops obviously were the European nations of planet Earth. And the mountains that had black tops were indicative of those parts of the world that contain so-called African stock. And it's interesting that when Allah mentions the black tops, he says intense in hue. He doesn't say that about the red or the white. It's interesting to me that he says that. Imam Muhammad didn't speak on that. That's just me talking. That when it says black, intense in hue, and you know, there's the whole conversation now throughout the scientific community around the subject of melanin and the purpose for melanin within the human skin. They have been studying this to no ends for several decades now. I believe in, I forget which country it is, in, I think it's in Europe, where they have annual melanin conferences to discuss melanin and its properties. And you want to know what one of the latest conclusions is? They have discovered and have published that they believe now that there's a communication link going on now between people on Earth who are heavily melanated. Now, keep in mind, every human being has melanin in their skin, but every human being doesn't have the intensity of melanin that African stock people have. In so-called white people, sometimes it manifests as freckles. But there's a different kind of melanocyte that's operating in the freckles as opposed to the melanin that's operating in people who have dark brown or black hair or very dark skin, etc. They're saying that they're believing now, and they're beginning to develop scientific evidence for it, that people on Earth who are heavily charged in their skin tone with this melanin chemical, and it is a chemical, that there's a similar development of, not development, but a similar creation of melanin that is being found now in what they call the cosmos. They're calling it cosmic DNA. They're calling it melanin from space, space melanin. And they're saying that it corresponds exactly with melanin that's found within the context of people and rocks and other things that are on Earth. And they believe that that's the reason for a particular level of communication between the melanin on Earth and the melanin in the cosmos. And I'm going to save it for another class to tell you why that is such a significant finding, not only for so-called Black people, for all humans. You just have to understand how, as Allah says in the Quran, he rotates his kingdom to see what you're going to do with it when you get it. Do you get it? He rotates his kingdom. And you're not getting anything just because you have melanin content in your skin. So forget that one. It ain't that easy. Melanin serves, in their estimation, as a sort of antenna that can actually communicate with cosmic stuff, cosmic DNA, what they're calling the 95% dark matter space. That up until this point, science has been saying we have no clue what that is out there. We only have been able to discover 5%, maybe 3% of the galaxies and the cosmos and what's out there. But there's 95% minimum stuff out there that we can't identify. It just looks dark to us. And again, I think that's very significant for the future of our scientific findings. And if I were you, so-called Black man, so-called Black woman, so-called African person, I would begin to investigate these sciences. Because if findings come about by people who believe that that finding does not benefit them, you'll never know about it. It's probably already on the block somewhere. It's already in the laboratory somewhere. It's already in somebody's scholastic institute somewhere, but you won't know about it because you're not thinking on that level. You're thinking on making it rain, taking your dollars and going to the booty bar and throwing up your money, you'll make it rain, and the girl go home with you, go to the hotel with you, give you some strange disease that you take home to your wife and children. And that's the life that you're living. Did your melanin save you from that foolishness? No. So don't put too much stock in melanin as melanin. put stock into melanin as a possible antennae to the cosmos, so that when you petition Allah for something, that the universe begins to work on your behalf. I'm giving you exactly what's in the Quran. When Allah said to the malaik, the angels, bow down, make sajda in the direction of Adam. So if you're in the form of Adam, you should be getting a ton of help from the angels, the forces in creation. If you're not in the mold of Adam, and just because you have 2 arms, 2 legs, and head and genitalia, doesn't mean you're in the form of Adam. You could be in the form of an ape. A dog has a head, 2 arms, 2 legs, and genitalia. That's not Adam in the Quran. A lot to think about. Let's continue. So nature is neutral, and it will punish you. If you don't think nature will punish you as a neutral force in its creation, find the highest building. Don't you do it. Just study people who have done it. Find the highest building, say, I don't want to live anymore. I want to end it all. And you could have been the nicest guy in the county or the country or the continent. But if something goes wrong in your mind that says, I can't take this anymore, I got to check out of here. And you find that high mountain or that high building or that high ledge, and you consciously jump, throw yourself off of that, nature will not come to your rescue. Why not? Because nature is cruel? No, because nature is neutral. The nature of my intellect will tell me to pick up the razor and shave, and I'm bringing dignity to the intellect when I do that, because it's serving my interests, like those angels that were told to bow down to Adam. But if some crazy, crooked, mistaken frequency gets into this brain and says, while you're there, I take the razor and slit your throat, and I do that, nature says, like the genie, yes, master. And nature wouldn't care nothing about it. I hope y'all are understanding me. Because nature is neutral. Now, what is not neutral is nurturing. So let's get to that point. We're talking about nature versus neutral tonight, part 3, conclusion. So nature is not doing anything with a conscious intent. Conscious means with choice. Con means with, chis means choice or choosing. Nature doesn't do anything because it has a rational brain. But everything that has been put into a position to nurture life does that consciously with choice. Let's move forward. Look at what Allah says in Surah 29, Ayah 40. Each one of them we seized for his crime. Of them, against some, we sent a violent tornado with its showers of stones. Some were caught by a mighty blast. Some we caused the earth to swallow up, and some we drowned in the waters. It was not Allah who injured or oppressed them. They injured and oppressed their own nafs, their own soul. This is so beautiful when you understand what Allah is saying. When Allah seizes you for your crime and begins to mete out the punishment on people such as that, it's not Allah necessarily who's doing it. Allah is not oppressing you because he's sending you punishment or allowing you to be punished. Allah says that that punishment, whether it happens or not, is actually within the realm of your own hands and your own possibilities. So in other words, when you're being punished, you called it forth out of the universe. When you're being shown mercy, growth, development, acknowledgement, assistance, you can call that forth also. Hear what Instructor Bilal is saying now. When you want good things to come to you, you can actually situate your conscious mind to petition the universe for that good thing. And I mean, you can be as specific as money, a wife, a husband, a vacation, or whatever. I mean, you can go into the material thing if you want. Certain qualities, human qualities, you want those, Allah will begin situating your environment as the conducive factors for bringing about the better you that you're seeing in your mind's eye, the so-called third eye, during meditation, during the salat, when you're doing it properly, as the Quran advocates, not as these witch doctors advocate, that salat just be some mindless ritual that you do for 5 to 7 minutes, 5 times a day, and that's supposed to make you a better human. You know in your own life, you'd be lying to say that that has made you a better person. You're standing right next to a person on that line who you don't like. You wish somebody else had rushed in between you and him, or you and her, trying not to even touch their feet. I've seen it. They say we're supposed to be touching toe to toe. I see people moving their feet away from people they don't like on the salat line. So stop fooling yourself. Step into the new understanding. You'll be glad you did. So that's not Allah doing that to you. That's you calling forth those energies. Now you might say, well, why does bad things happen then to just people who we know are good people, or to children, or to babies? Because they're still in the neutral zone. And if you're in the neutral zone, now you have to be careful what environment you situate yourself in, because the neutral zones bring forth neutral activity that's neither here nor there. The universe considers it neither good or evil, good or bad. And it just brings it because that environment is calling it. So a lot of times when things happen to people who are not consciously aware of human life, you got to start investigating the people around them. The parents, the children, the school, the teacher who told you stuff that you believed. So the nature of the universe has nothing to do with morals. Moral decision making. That's nurturing that does that. That's not nature that does that. Nature has no right and wrong, good and bad, clean and filthy. Those are all subjective views. The mud at the seashore, is it dirty or is it clean? The water runs over it all day long, all night long, but you'll put your feet in it and say, I'm dirty, I need to wash off all this mud. Your brain, your thinking brain, sees it as dirt and filth and mud. The universe doesn't see it that way. The universe is indifferent. It's mud, this is water, this is fire, it's indifferent. If this fire catches onto these trees, the fire will burn down that whole forest if you don't do something about it, because fire is a part of nature and nature is neutral. I hope I've made my point on that side of the fence. So in this ayah we just read, which again is Surah 29, ayah 40, we can clearly see in this ayah that the 4 major elements that I'm speaking about all of the time, those elements which regulate creation itself, are being referred to as winds. You see, the violent tornado, winds. A mighty blast, which is fire. It can even be nuclear, but it's fire. The earth swallowing things up, that's the earth. And it says that some we drowned, so that has to do with water. So if you want corroboration about what Instructor Bilal has been teaching you now for many, many years, you want Quranic corroboration, these are the kinds of ayah or ayat that you have to begin investigating. The 4 elements put there just as plain as the nose on your face. So these are the fundamental elements that are operating throughout physical creation. And this is a beautiful picture I found in my computer images. So you have air here at the top. You have fire. Well, let's go in the direction that the arrows are going. We have air here at the top. We have water here to its left going down. We have earth at the bottom, and we have fire up here on the right side. So those are your 4 fundamental elements that regulate creation: air, water, earth, fire. And these 4 are operating throughout the entire creation as we know it. And these are cycles that produce these 4 cycles. The rainwater comes down from the clouds. The heat of the sun can create fire. etc., etc. This is one for you to study. I may let the notes loose from today's class just so that you'll have a chance to study this chart, or I may reproduce this chart separately and send it to you in an email. This needs to be a poster in every one of your homes, and you need to study it. This is al-fitrah. And Allah said, do not allow corruption to come into his fitrah. Do not allow any alterations to come into Allah's fitrah. So these four are also operating on the level of human personality. This is beautiful. They're operating on the level of human personality, as the winds are representative of your spiritual nature. See, this is a part of your human personality. And spiritual just means the nature of influences, the things that influence you to go in a particular direction, just like air or winds influence things in the environment to be blown in a particular direction. We call them directional influences, as Imam gave it to us. Imam Muhammad gave it to us. So when we talk about spirit, we're not talking about spooks, taking you on a trip to Spookville to visit some spirits, or, you know, calling forth some dead souls. And we ain't talking about all that crazy stuff that people are into. We're not saying it doesn't exist and can't happen. We're just saying that Allah didn't put us on the earth to be calling forth no, you know, dead great granddaddy to find out what happened to the money. That's all we're saying. When we talk about spirit, generally speaking, we're talking about the nature of influence. That's your spiritual nature, and that's inside of you. See, the winds are outside of you in the fitrah. But Allah says, as he put instructing signs or ayat in the skies and in the earth, he put similar signs in you, inside you. But most people, Allah says, most people paid no attention whatsoever. Isn't that something? So those are the winds or the air qualities in you. Now we have the fire. That's the nature of the intellect itself, the investigative nature of the intellect. What is it that the intellect is actually producing as fire? I'm going to tell you in a nutshell. Your intellect is responsible for producing opinions, and not really that much more outside of that. Your intellect is designed to produce opinions. That's your personal fire that you use to light your environment. But that's not Allah's light. We'll talk about the difference in a moment, because we're talking still about the difference between nature and nurture. Then you have the earth, and that's dealing with all of your material concerns. That's a part of your material nature, the nature to have to eat food physically, the nature to have to drink substances physically, the nature to have to secure yourself with comfort on the physical level, somewhere to live so it doesn't rain and snow on you, something to wrap around your body on those cold, chilly nights like we're beginning to experience now. So that's the material nature that calls for things of the earth, material substance in order to survive. That's your nature doing that. That has nothing to do with a moral opinion in terms of how hot or cold you might be. That has nothing to do with moral thinking. That has to do with practical application of the logic related to material living, biological beings. Then you have water, and water, as you know, represents the emotional nature. Somebody gets slapped hard enough across the face, they're going to shed a tear. Because of that physical event, they're going to shed a tear, water, because they're going to get very emotional. I don't think I can beat this guy. He should have never slapped me in front of these girls in high school. You know, you're going to find a way to get back at them because it makes you emotional, and emotions bring water qualities along with it. You become very fearful, you'll start to sweat water. Even in 40 degrees, you start thinking about something that makes you scared. Oh man, my mother gets home and she finds out what happened to the car. Daggone it. It'd be 55 degrees where you are outside and you begin pellets, water pellets will begin to form on your forehead. It's beautiful when you understand it. All right. A child could be scared so much that it will urinate on itself. That's water. As a result of its emotional, whatever, being disturbed. Water likes balance. It doesn't like to be disturbed. When it's disturbed, that's where the waves begin to show up. You start blowing on the water, pushing on the water, air begins to hit the ocean. That's when those tumultuous waves appear. Other than that, it's steady because water loves balance. That's how your emotions are. I love it when nobody's trying to mess with me on purpose. Don't you love it? But when people start to mess with you and tell jokes about you for no reason and start picking at you and clowning around you and you're serious as I don't know what at that moment, man, come on, stop playing, man. I got something on my mind. I don't care what's on you. You don't even have a mind. You know, those kinds of people. And they begin to push your water and your water becomes wavy. And it will do that seeking at the end of that activity to return to a state of balance. They call it equilibrium. That's the emotional nature. All humans are born into an environment which activates the intellect. See, when you come out of that womb and you're thrusted into this world of light and activity, it immediately begins to activate your 5 basic senses, which are responsible for the development of your intellect, the internal electing part of you, the part inside of you that begins to elect, choose. I like this. I don't like that. I like when she holds me, she's got the milk source. I don't like when the daddy holds me because I'm hungry and he ain't showing me that he got no milk source. So the baby begins to develop an activated intellect, internal choice-making mechanism in the mind. Intelligence is in the body, in the DNA, RNA, but the intellect is a product of all of the things that it's discovering outside of itself, in the environment. Now listen to this, it's going to get just a little bit deeper than that. All humans, I repeat, are born into an environment which activates the intellect. Show you something real quick. I think you can handle it. There's a word called viron. It's not always environ, but there's a word called viron. Look it up in the dictionary. It's related to environment. But viron is related, believe it or not, to the Quranic word Firaun, which they translate as Pharaoh. Now I'm going to show you the foolishness of believing in these characters as literal characters. Allah is not dealing with literal characters in history. If he were, they wouldn't have to guess about which Pharaoh this was. They're still arguing about which Pharaoh. Oh, there were some good pharaohs, you know, but Pharaoh was the evil Pharaoh, and this is Amun, this one, and Hetepu, the other one. They're guessing, and their guessing is futile because Allah is not talking about literal people in history. When he talks about the Pharaoh in Moses' time, even when he talks about Musa, he's not talking about a literal person in history. I told you earlier, the Quran is bringing you deeper science than this world's educated people. Most educated people have not even come to the threshold of understanding in terms of science, not even in terms of possible technology. Who do you think Allah is saving all of that science and technology for? Don't say the black man. Please don't disappoint me. He's saving it for the human. But the true one, the Adam one, that was given the assistance of all of Allah's angels. He ain't here yet. He's knocking on the door of human consciousness right now, trying to be let in. And all we have to do is be obedient to the nature, the fitra nature that we've been discussing now for weeks. Just be obedient to the fitra nature. We spoke of it a few weeks ago as biogeometry as introduced by our esteemed scientist. Just be obedient. Listen to your conscience. Listen to your common sense. Surround yourself with common sense thinkers and speakers and videos. And you'll be conditioning yourself in the role of Adama in the Quran. It's not even Adam anymore. It's Adama. Look at it in the Quran. Stop listening to what these scholars are putting in front of your face as the Aleph with the Medda. There's no Aleph and no Medda in Adam's name in the Quran. Because the Adam in the Quran, listen to this one. The Adam in the Quran is not a noun. I sat back just in case somebody wanted to swing at me. The Adam in the Quran is a verb. Adama is what it says. So that's an action word. Now, if you can line yourself up with that correspondence that allows you to become a part of that action called Adama, then the Malaik that Allah said or commanded to make sajda in Adam's direction, they will all be working for you. You will then be Banu Adama, Banu, the children of that action. So you can keep on believing that this was a physical relative of yours that began the human species and all of that, and still be out there looking for his bones and, his wife, Eve, and whether he had any pets or any, you can still be out there looking for them if you want. Waste your time like that in this day of enlightenment. Yawmul Qiyamah, Yawmul Deen. You're living in it according to Imam Muhammad. But you're also living in the day of the great elimination of the human soul. Continuing. All humans are born into an environment. And I made that point about Fir'aun because the Quran is depicting Fir'aun, not as a person, but as a particular kind of environment that evil forces create. And that environment is much more active today than it was 4 and 5 and 2 and 6 and 7 and 10,000 years ago. The whole world wasn't even discovered then. So the opportunity for evil to be more replenished and whatever the word is for being everywhere, all over the place at one time, that word. The opportunity for that exists more in our day and time than it ever did back 2,000, 5,000 years ago. Some of them people never made it out of Egypt.
Ubiquitous.
Ubiquitous, thank you. Very good word. Nice choice, thank you. All right. I depend on you for that, Winona. Yeah, all right. So we're born into an environment which activates the intellect. And it is the intellect which needs to be nurtured. See, we're not talking about nature right now. The intellect is the intelligence that needs nature. But it is the intellect that needs nurture. To be nurtured, meaning to be cultured and to be civilized. You are not born civilized. I told you that last week. All you have to do is translate that infant's behavior into a teenage and adult body. That same infant that's there at the table at the high chair, throwing grits on his sister, or oatmeal or whatever, his applesauce, and taking the food and putting it all over his face and all over his lips and all, and it makes you the servant that has to come clean him up. That one. Put that infant's behavior in a teenage body, and you'll see what kind of terror you have sitting at the table. Uncivilized. And do it around company. As an infant, ha, ha, ha. Look at the baby. As a teenager, why are you not training this child? Who's teaching this child? Or who's not teaching this child? That's what you want to know. This is real. And put it in a bona fide adult, you have Satan himself sitting at your table. You're talking, he's talking. He don't wait for you to finish talking. He just talk and try to talk louder than you to get your attention and everybody else's attention at the table. You sitting there trying to solve some problem or something, and that 2-year-old or that 1-year-old is there. He just starts just to be louder than you. Yeah, you are handling finance or something at the table, or trying to make a point that's going to advance your family into the future economically. And that 2-year-old be put that behavior in a teenager or in an adult. You got hell on wheels. You understand? We're talking about the fitrah and the instructing signs given to us by our source creator. So that's a part of the environment that is conditioning us now, the environment, which again needs to be nurtured, needs to be upgraded from nature, needs to be nurtured now, which means to be cultured and to be civilized. Now, the word nurture is from the word nourish. The word nourish is related to the Quranic Arabic word nur. All of us have heard of that word, nur. It means light, sometimes spelled N-U-R instead of N-O-O-R. But for purposes of pronunciation, we say nur and write it like that. This word nur produced the English science word nerve. You've heard it as neural. Your neural system of nerves, they call it the science of neurology, the study of the nervous systems in the body. And remember now, Imam Muhammad told us on several occasions that as soon as information hits one or more of the 5 senses, it begins its work on the human nervous system. The nervous system, particularly the central nervous system. And he said that the connection with your 5 senses, seeing something, smelling something, hearing something, tasting something, or whatever the last one is, touching something. The connection with those senses and their observations immediately produce feelings inside the body, inside the emotionality. And those feelings begin to trigger other activities in the body that makes you want to choose this because it feels good. So the intellect chooses that feeling and says, I'd like a repeat performance of the way you rubbed me that just now. You rubbed me the right way. Oh, I like that, wife. I like that. Well, yeah, husband, yeah, you did the right thing right there. Ooh, do that again, right? Because your nervous system loves that. But then there are some things that enter into the 5 basic senses. You taste it and it's, oh, please don't. Is this dinner or don't do this again, whatever you do. Have the experiment. Don't experiment with my dinner, girl. Or mister. You mean this is your first time cooking? Man, you should have let me come in. Nah, I wanted to surprise. Oh, you surprised me. All right. Surprised I don't get up and hurt you for what you tried to do to me just now. That wasn't even food you gave me. So this is the human nervous system reacting to all of this. And it's the same way that if a bowl of still, peaceful water became touched, it does what your nervous system does. It ripples and it sends out waves, right? Far and wide, sends out waves. That's the human nervous system. The human nervous system, as Imam Muhammad said, is like water. You leave it alone, it'll leave everything else alone. You touch it, and depending on the severity of the touch, the pressure behind the touch, it might just ripple a little bit, but if you throw a stone in there, splash it or whatever, man, those ripples are going to be everywhere. And that's how your human nervous system is. See, now that you have that Fitra-based knowledge, you should be working towards developing a human psychology to replace Freudian and other forms of psychology. You thank them for the good that they provided the world, but you should be saying it's our turn to lead now, academically speaking, in the sciences, the social sciences, the human sciences, the fields of psychology, neurology. You should be wanting to study. I don't care how old you are. You should be wanting to study in those areas. There's nothing that precludes you even from going back to school to study neurology. You don't have to want to be a doctor. They have free courses that you can take. They have internet courses that you can take just for your own satisfaction. Man, I'm thinking on a much higher level now. I feel better about myself. People tell me I look better, I look younger. I've been thinking, what have you been listening to or involving yourself in? Oh, it's that Nunetics girl. I'm growing younger just studying these letters and watching little Mahdi. I'm growing younger. Now I'm going to take it a step further and actually join a course that's giving us a disciplined way of studying these events and these topics. Instructor Bilal is going to be presenting a few of them to you next semester. And I'll tell you about one before we conclude if William will remind me to do so. Now, so the physical body needs to be be placated because of its nature, because of those four basic areas that constitute the nature: the earth, the fire, the air, the water. However, the human being needs to be situated above nature and needs to begin to embrace the ideas related to the better development of its nurturing possibilities. And that word nurture is connected directly to nourish. And nourish, as I said, is connected to the Quranic Arabic word nur, which means light. And by the way, in the Quran, the word for light is always singular. There's no plural for the word nur. But there's a plural for the word darkness, dhulumat. So there can be multiple layers of darkness, but when it comes to light, all light is related to light. And light doesn't like to show off by showing you what it looks like. You think you're seeing light when the sun comes up. You're not seeing anything. You're seeing through the air. But you can't tell me what light looks like. You can only tell me what the thing looks like that light is exposing you to. Oh, we're getting a little bit deep now. You can't tell me what water looks like. But you can tell me what water shows you when you look through water to see other things like rocks, fish. But water is clear. Let's continue. So the word nur, as mentioned, produced the English words nerve and neural. Now, just a bit of science. Nerves send electric signals or pulses to different parts of the body. That's what your nerves are doing all of the time. When something gets on your nerves, it sends those pulses with more rapidity, with more frequency. So nerves are connected to the electric part of your life. Light is a wave-like magnetic and electric field, but more magnetic. So nerves, they send electric signals. Light is a wave-like magnetic property. Although it practically does not interact with other magnetic fields. So it is an independent magnetic field unto itself that utilizes electricity along with its electric properties, utilizes, electricity along with its magnetic properties. Now, the Quranic word nar, listen to how close these words are. You have nur, light, but you also have nar. Nar. And what is nar? Someone in the audience tell me real quick, and then close your phone.
Fire.
Yes, fire. So there's nur, light, and then there is fire, that which is able to produce light. Fire. From the same root, combination of the letters nun, ra. Those two letters produce the word nur, light, as well as the word nar, fire. And remember, in the Quran, Iblis states that, speaking to Allah, you created in me min nar, from fire. And I told you earlier that one of the connections with the term fire is to the idea of opinionism. Opinionism. Allah says there was a man who kindled a fire. He didn't say Allah revealed to him nar. Allah reveals nur. Men kindle nar, their own opinions about things. And Allah says that when it lit all around him, when it lit up all around him, says that Allah snatched away their light and left them in utter multiple darknesses, dhulumat. So the one man is representative of the multitude in this instance. And it's the multitude of people who actually buy into the opinion of one person to begin with. Who said that? Freud said that. Who said that? Carl Jung said that. Who said that? The Pope said that. Well, if the Pope said it, it must be true. So let's spread what the Pope said without investigating it. Who said that? Imam Muhammad said, man means mind. Oh, well, I don't have to go study that. He studied it for me. I'm going to take his opinion and run with it. He said man means mind. But when you get in front of academically inclined people and they say, well, I don't see that in Webster Dictionary. I don't see that in American Heritage Dictionary, that man means mind. I looked in these 5 different dictionaries, young guy. Where did you find the corroboration for that? Oh, I never looked for corroboration. That was Imam Muhammad's opinion, and I just ran with it. Does that sound like an intelligent student to you? No matter how much you love Imam Muhammad, and no matter how right he would have been and actually was in saying that man means mind, but you have to take it off of the level of just believing in somebody's opinion, and you have to bring it in and study it. So I didn't find the conclusive answer when I looked in Webster's dictionary. Maybe I should look in the 25th Collegiate Dictionary. Okay, I looked there. I still don't see where man means mind. Where else can I look? And you know what will happen from that point? Allah will begin teaching you like he taught me and like he taught Imam Muhammad. I'm just lackadaisically looking through Columbia University bookstore, not intending to purchase anything. And my eyes, who sent my eyes up there to the top shelf? Allah did. A book said word origins. I said, oh, I'm 17 years old when this happened. I'm 63 now. I said, oh, I'm talking to myself. Oh, Ben, look, word origins. What's the difference between word origins and a dictionary? See, internal election taking place in the intellect. I asked the man, could you get a ladder and go, bring that book down? He said, well, that one's not for sale. I said, I never said I wanted to buy it. I said, I wanted to look at it. Isn't that what it's up there for? And why is it all the way up there on the shelf where most people can't even reach it? or might not even see it. This is the intellect at work. So he brings it down. So the first thing I look for is the word man. And lo and behold, the first meaning, mind. The second meaning, to think. So I said, well, bye-bye to Webster's. What good are you now in my life? My thinking was automatically elevated. Then I started looking where man was used in other senses. They say man also means hand.
That's man.
Hand. I said, well, how does man mean mind and hand at the same time? See, this is what Allah will be teaching you through your own observation. I said, well, the human being has 5 fingers and the human mind has 5 basic senses. It operates based on the observations that take place through the activation of these 5 basic senses. What I touch, what I see, what I taste, what I hear, and what I smell. Bringing in information into the mind, developing my opinions about things, bringing me into levels of truth even. So if the 5 basic senses are doing that, then the 5 basic senses are responsible for the creation and the development and the furtherance of this human mind. So that's how man and hand became synonymous.
Fatima? Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. You trying to ask me something?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't know my mic was open.
Okay, no problem. Good to hear from you.
I did want to say something though. This is Kyle.
Yes, please.
I did want to say that when I was in school for physical therapy in college, Manu, the word Manu, like man, it really does mean the hand.
Yes.
Yeah, it means that in medical terminology.
That's correct.
Yep.
That's why we call a handbook a manual.
Wow.
That's why we call the thing that secures your hands as a slave a manacle.
Wow.
That's why when
crazy.
we build something with our hands, they call it manufacturing.
Yeah, that's crazy. I never knew that.
Yes, indeed.
Wow.
All right. So it is the freedom of the human hands that are responsible for building the world. This is another page out of the book of Imam W.D. Muhammad. He said, let's just say that they're correct in saying that at one point, human beings were crawling around like common animals. Well, if they were crawling around like monkeys and dogs and whatever, they didn't have access to these 2 hands because they were busy, looking for food, sniffing their way through, using the 2 hands for transport along with the 2 legs. But if this is the way it happened, the evolutionary process involved in signaling humans to be able to stand up and do what no common animal could do, that is stand up and balance himself for long periods of time on his 2 legs. See, a monkey can stand up, a gorilla can stand up, but it can't do that for very long. It has to eventually fall back onto all 4s and make its way, climb its way, etc. But the human being is the only creature created that can sustain its travel, its journey upon 2 legs. Maybe sit down in between, but it doesn't have to crawl around. That's a part of its evolutionary journey. So when the hands were freed, that's when human progress began to be made. So what does that say? That's saying that when your 5 senses become free, that's when your progress will be made. For as long as your 5 senses are not free to think and roam and discover, you are just like the person wearing the manacle. You are enslaved to somebody else's ideology, in essence, to somebody else's opinion. And unless they kindle their fire, you won't get any light. I hope that's understood. We cannot be slaves to people's opinions. Once you find out that that is more than an opinion and it is actually Allah's nur and not just the human being's nar being kindled, then that nur, that light becomes one light, because again, there's no plural for the word nur. So whatever light that is, if it's Allah's light, then it's universal and no human being gets the credit for it. Isn't that beautiful?
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, I wish I had an applause button on my computer. That deserved an applause.
Yes, sir. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah,
But
Rabbil
you give-
Alameen.
You're giving me something better. You're giving me Alhamdulillah. That's right. The praise is the property of Allah. That's correct. All right. So this is how that goes. You have to stop giving undue attention to humans. I'm teaching you a very important lesson for going into 2023 now. And I said this beginning about 6 months ago. We had a major weekend event that we call a strong end event in Georgia not too long ago. And I taught a lesson called From Cult to Cultivation. By now, those people who journeyed through the history of the Nation of Islam as it was presented by Elijah Muhammad, and as it culminated in the leadership of Imam W.D. Muhammad, who succeeded his father, Elijah Muhammad. When it was in Elijah Muhammad's hands, it was indeed, in fact, irrefutably to be considered a cult. C-U-L-T, where the majority of people are just blindly following the person in front of them for whatever reason. He saved their lives. He got them off of drugs and alcohol. He helped them clean themselves up so that they became representable and married and had children, and the children were clean cut and educated, and all of that is beautiful. But if you're doing that just because one person told you to do that, and when that one person disappears, you go back to being the old bum that you were before he started teaching. I hate that Wallace ever became the leader, man. We lost everything. You standing there looking like King Kong in pajamas, talking about what W.D. Muhammad did to you. Did he rob you of your common sense? Yeah, I had to go back to drinking after what W.D. Muhammad started talking about and talked about his father and, the wives and I couldn't take it. Well, if you couldn't take it, then what you were accepting from Elijah Muhammad wasn't strong enough to hold you. Farrakhan or whoever else might hear this in the future. You went back to smoking reefers and smoking cigarettes and drinking alcohol, Farrakhan, according to you? Then what your leader told you as Elijah Muhammad, it wasn't strong enough for you. That one man can come along and interrupt your parade, rain on your parade. Didn't do me like that. I was only 16 years old. I knew better than to go back to things that I was never into in the first place. And use Wallace as the excuse for making an intellectual decision, an internal election. Boy, I miss that Johnny Walker Red. Man, I miss that gin. Man, I miss those card games on the weekend. So I'm going to use Wallace as the excuse to go back. You're not doing that consciously. You're doing that subconsciously. 44 years of Elijah Muhammad's teachings, and as the week after he's in the ground, you went back to drinking and blame it on Wallace? You fool. What kind of wizard is he to have that kind of control over thousands of you who said you went back and did that? You just weren't ready for the ride. You weren't prepared. You weren't strapped in tightly enough for where Allah was trying to take you. So if you're still in the Elijah Muhammad phenomenon phase of the leadership, where Elijah Muhammad could do no wrong, Elijah Muhammad was your personal savior, and now you're still accepting his savior, W.D. Farad, as God in person, you are the biggest fool that earth has ever produced. In fact, I'm not even believing anymore that earth produced you. I think some cosmic rock landed somewhere near your village, your country, your town, and some way, some cosmic DNA got out of that cosmic rock and made its way into your mommy's belly and produced you. Because I can't explain the level of ignorance that a person would have in accepting another human being as God. I don't get it. You write me a report on it. I'll entertain it. Email it to me. And take that back to whoever needs to hear it. I love these people. Trust me when I tell you. But they have a face that only a mother could love. I don't love them because they believe W.D. Farad is God. And if I were with him in a forum, like many of you were in, where were you just now? In Washington, D.C., sending back all kinds of pictures, you and Farrakhan's people, you in the Musalla, and you reading the Quran and all. Well, I hope you told them the truth about who Allah is and who Allah ain't. That's your job. That's your Muslim duty to make clear that, by the way, some of you have been believing in this Farad thing, and I noticed that you're starting to step up the tempo on trying to convince regular people like us that W.D. Farad is Allah in the person of, and that he's on a mothership, that Elijah Muhammad is still living, he's on that mothership, and that and now many of their top leaders, including Minister Farrakhan's son, Mustafa, whichever way you want to pronounce it, coming back now on YouTube videos and saying that W.D. Muhammad was a hypocrite. W.D. Muhammad led us all astray until my father came and brought it all back together. Well, if you're saying that in public, I'm putting this in the public. You are the biggest bullshitter that YouTube has ever produced. And you know you're lying. You know you just want to hold on to all of that fancy materialistic stuff that you've been accumulating since Elijah Muhammad left you. So I'm saying, I don't even know if you have any more time to get out of that quagmire, out of that filthy mud. So I'm not even addressing you on the leadership level. I'm addressing those who got sense in their heads still, who are among the followers of Minister Louis Farrakhan. And when you come talk to me, I'm not going to be pussyfooting with you. Whether you're Wesley Muhammad, doctor, whoever, the son of Elijah Muhammad, biologically speaking, I don't care who you are. If you come to my channel, and this is a challenge for you, you want to come debate what I'm saying about W.D. Muhammad and W.D. Farad and Elijah Muhammad and whoever else you want to bring into the puzzle, come on, bring it. I'm ready to debate you at any time for the people's sake. It won't be no private conversation like you tried to get me on a few years ago, Wesley, or whoever it was. It ain't gonna be that. It's gonna be this class in front of all these people and anybody else we want to invite from any one of our sides. And we're going to have a set of questions and answers and all of that. And we're going to let the people decide whether what Minister Farrakhan and company are still saying about Elijah Muhammad and so-called Master Farad Muhammad and being born in Mecca and all, and still being alive, and the black man being God, and the white man being the devil. You want to hold on to that fairy tale stuff? Bring it. And I don't care what time you bring it. Tell me you want it 2 p.m., 2 a.m. It doesn't matter. I'll be there waiting for you. I'll send you the link.
Praise be to Allah, instructors. Muhammad Alam Ali.
Yeah. You got to be bold like that. This ain't no pussyfooting day. After all you're supposed to know and have been taught. So stop making, I'm talking to our side now, stop making W.D. Muhammad a god in your life. The only way you can truly appreciate what Imam Muhammad left is to actually study it and stop playing. Stop just parroting and repeating. The day for parroting went out with the teachings of W.D. Farad or Farad, whose name consonantally connects with the word parrot. F-R-D connects with P-R-T. If you needed to know that. And everything that we did under, I say we, although I wasn't there practicing it, I was observing it from the outside of the circle. But everything that the followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad did was in a way that parroted what Elijah Muhammad and his teacher did. You couldn't even get into the Nation of Islam unless you parroted writing a letter. And the letter couldn't be in your handwriting. See, I don't know how many outside people know this, but you need to know. The handwriting had to be exactly the handwriting of W.D. Farad on that letter that he penned while he was among us. And if your loops weren't in the places where his loops were, if the endings of your sentences and your periods were not where he put his, you were not allowed to become a part of the then Nation of Islam. You had to parrot exactly his handwriting, not to mention his lingo, his terminology. That's why everybody in Minister Farrakhan's group who comes before a microphone tries to sound like him. What kind of growth is that for a human personality? As soon as you start teaching Nation of Islam doctrine, you want to sound like Farrakhan and make grimaces with your face and looking like Minister Farrakhan. Where's your personality? Minister Farrakhan did that with Malcolm. He wanted to be like Malcolm. He started grimacing like Malcolm. You know, I mean, when does this end? I played W.D. Muhammad on stage 3 times, and I never walked away feeling like I need to, cough where he coughs and clear my throat where he does. There's another popular leader in Imam Muhammad Association who does that. You know him very well. If you're not listening carefully, you might think that was W.D. Muhammad. So why are you parroting? That tells me something about where you are in your development. You are not in the nurtured state of where you should be. You're still in the basic, fundamental nature state. And we're here to bring you the hell out of it. Continuing, if I may. So we said that nature is represented by Ar-Rahman. So keep that in mind. Nurture, however, is represented by Ar-Rahim, whose redemptive qualities, the merciful Redeemer, whose redemptive qualities are earmarked for those who choose quality over quantity. Ar-Rahman is about quantity, being good to everything in all measures. And I'll decide the measure. I'll decide how much sun for this part of the planet at this particular time of day. Then I'll move that quantity of light over to the southern part of the planet. And that's Allah regulating as Ar-Rahman, the bestower of measurements to all living beings. But that doesn't necessarily equate to quality. That's quantity. Now, Ar-Rahim is ushering in the quality. Oh, how beautiful this is. And it's the quality in you that redeems you, not the quality. It's not the amount of money you have. It's not the amount of wives you've been able to attract. I have 4 wives, brother. What about you? Oh, you got a nice quantity of wives. Yeah. But how's the quality of your life and your relationships? Pimp. I'm telling you from firsthand knowledge of people who have taken on more than one wife and didn't know what the hell to do with that. They became abusive pimps. And when they got tired of those 4, they just divorce 1 or 2 and go find another new 1 or 2. I know people like this personally in New York and in other places. I'm not saying all people do that and abuse it like that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that people misinterpret what they think is permission to have 4 wives, which the Quran does not advocate. Now you're going to really come at me. Throw your slings and your arrows at me for saying that. The Quran does not openly advocate for 4 wives for any man. It's not in there. You're misreading the language because manipulative snakes did the interpretation for you. Deliberately misinterpreting very fundamental, easy to understand Arabic words, swapping them out for other words that made it mean 1 or 2 or 3. There's no word or in there. There's the word and, 1 and 2 and 3. You know how you get ready to start that song? And a 1 and a 2. And everybody ends up in the right beat and in the right harmony. See, that's not happening in our relationships because they told you and a 1 or a 2 or a 3. So you end up with one musician trying to give a full-fledged performance. The Quran is not here to regulate that part of your life and treat your wife like she's some Sunday house slave, free on Sundays to go to church. All of the rest of the 6 days, she's working for you. How can you talk like that, Instructor Bilal? Aren't you afraid they're going to come after you? I want them to come after me because I got one question to ask them when they start coming at me about the 4 wives thing. How many of you brothers who are marrying 2 and 3 and 4 are taking care of orphans? And then you ask them that and you sit back and wait for their answer. Now, if they say, yeah, I married her because she had some orphans that couldn't take care of themselves. She had young children, male and female, boys and girls, and they couldn't make it for themselves. They couldn't get educated unless I stepped in and I was in a position to do so. Then I'll say, pass, you pass. Now, what about you, brother, who keeps swapping out wives until they show wrinkles and then you get rid of them and you bring in another younger one who ain't showing no wrinkles? What about you? Where are your orphans? Where are the orphans that you're taking care of? Looks more like she's taking care of you, my man. You ain't working? She's working. She loves children. You hate children. You don't want any children. That doesn't fit you, what the Quran is talking about. You're the victim of manipulative and manipulated language. Let me move forward. So nurture is what we're talking about and concluding on right now. And it's represented, I repeat, in the phrase Ar-Rahim, whose redemptive qualities are earmarked for those who choose quality over quantity. You see, when the baby is developing in the Rahm, the womb of its mother to be, Allah is allowing the baby to grow in measurements that we can only attribute to quantities. When you go for the sonogram, that periodic check on the baby's growth and development, you're checking for certain things, all of which are related to quantity, never to quality. You can't check on the baby's moral aptitude. You can't check on the baby's intelligence or intellect in this case. You can't check on the baby, how much the baby knows. You can check on the baby's compassion, how compassionate this baby is and will be when it gets here. You can only measure in those 9 to 10 months quantities. 2 arms, okay, yeah. You count the fingers in, oh yeah, 5 on each. Yeah, you count the toes, yeah. Navel, yeah. You got penis, yeah. She got vagina, yeah. Okay, so now you got all of the quantities in place. It's only after the baby gets here that you begin to measure qualities. I'm gonna leave that right there. I think there's enough of that for you to chew on. Quantity first, quality as a secondary set of attributes. Ar-Rahman first, Ar-Rahim as a secondary installation of qualities within the human person. That means that all of your attention should no longer be on just the quantity, just how tall he got over the summer, just on how much food he eats daily, just on how much exercise he got, which gave you a 10-minute, 15, 30-minute break today. Those are quantities of exercise, quantities of food stuff. But your attention should be more focused on the quality of that young person's life, the quality. How is she beginning to make decisions for themselves, for himself, for herself? Are they beginning to make decisions? Are you creating scenarios that force them to make decisions just so that you can sit back and say, ah, good choice, son. See, choice of friends in the school. How are they responding to their teachers' advice or homework? Cooperation. Are you looking at those report cards to see what kind of quality life your child is developing? So the greater concentration should then be on the quality life. That's the Ar-Rahim that everybody's not talking about. They're talking about Ar-Rahman, all the stuff I've been blessed with as a mercy from God, but they're not talking about all of the qualities that I have inherited as an obedient student of Allah's messages, the guidance, al-huda. So back to nurture, represented by Ar-Rahim, whose redemptive qualities are earmarked for those who choose quality over quantity. That's an intellectual decision. The word redeemer, which Imam Muhammad gave us to interpret Ar-Rahim by merciful redeemer, it means to repetitively, see, redeemer, re means to repetitively redeem or save or even liberate. That's what a redeemer does. She liberates. Just like the mother liberated that baby from her insides. She saved that baby's life by giving birth to it. So in that same manner, we must first understand what the word deem means, because re is just a prefix. This is redeem. So what does deem mean? This is how deep you have to go when you study English. Forget Arabic for now. Study English in the way that I'm presenting it to you right now. Look at every aspect of a word in English and break it down. Your 7-year-old can do what I just did for you. Redeem, Imam Muhammad called it redeemer, Ar-Rahim, okay. Re means what? To do something over and over again repetitively. Now let's see what's being done repetitively. Deem, what does deem mean? Look it up in a good dictionary, online etymology dictionary, my choice. It means to condemn, or as we say, condemn. But it also means to think and to judge. If I say that I deem that child unworthy of my attention or of my assistance right now, based on the way that child is acting, I judge that that child, so in a sense, I'm condemning the child by saying I'm not working with that child with that bad behavior. She better straighten up and fly right before I take my precious time away from my children to come over here and try and teach her some values. She's got to make a first step towards me in her behavior. So that's deem, judgment. What do we call judgment based on the Quran? Maliki Yawmiddin. We call it deen, deen, judgment. N and M are interchangeable. So the word deem is also the word deen.
Alhamdulillah.
Indeed. So you have to be a thinker. You have to be one capable of making correct judgment. So deem and deen are equivalent words on the most part. And I'm going to end there. We'll pick up on the red shift, blue shift this time next week. But I think you got your fill today. Do any of you agree with that?
Alhamdulillah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. Very good. Excellent. Well done. Alhamdulillah.
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 Instructor, it can also be redoned too.
Alhamdulillah.
I'm sorry, I can't hear your comments. I'm going to ask you to give me, just give me 2 minutes worth of a break and I'll be right back. If you have any questions, feel free to ask when I get back. I will be right back.
You wanted William to make an announcement.
Yes, and we'll be right back for that. Thank you, Wally. Stand by.
Where is
What happened? Oh, he said, give him 2 minutes. He'll be right back.
Okay, we're back on the block.
Alhamdulillah.
And I'm going to ask Instructor William Safir to come forward and just repeat the announcement that I made about needing everyone's name, full name, phone number, and email address. And I need you to send that to me, all of you, if you haven't done it. Some of you have. If you haven't done it, please do that as soon as you hang up from this call or while you're listening to the end of this call. I need that information. But let's let William come forth for any other tidbits of information that you need to know.
Mostly just wanted to remind everyone that we're past the middle of December already. And coming into the new year, we're encouraging everyone to start gearing up. Instructors, senior instructors, executive senior instructors, start gearing up, preparing whatever information that you're interested in. We will be rolling out our platform soon, and we're encouraging you to be ready to start doing Seedcast. So whatever that means for you, start getting your materials together, listening to Instructor and I saw information from Pat Flynn, very useful in terms of just knowing how the Seedcast operates and how you should prepare for it. So I would suggest that you take advantage of that. And I would also encourage the possibility for co-hosting, where one or two of us can get together. If you have a problem with video, then you can just do audio, but start getting your materials ready, start recording as soon as you possibly can, and start preparing, because we are organizing so that we can start handling the anticipated numbers that we're looking at coming into the new year. So that's the main thing we wanted to share. And on the organizational side of management side of what we're putting together, definitely, if you don't have your information, your full name, telephone number, your email address, please get that done. It's a little early this evening, so get it done.
And William, have them send that please to Nunetics Plus.
Yeah, Nunetics Plus. It's the proper place to send that, and whatever donations you have, that's going to Nunetics Plus as well, right, Instructor? Payments for the coming.
Yeah, yes, if they're making a payment where they still want that $75 discount,
Right.
Yeah, what they can do actually now, William, is they can go straight to the website.
Okay, straight to the website.
Yeah, that offer is on the website, and the website is pardon me, the website is nuneticsinstitute.org. William mentioned that earlier, so write that down. Someone may want to put that into the chat box, so folks will have it. Bayina will send it to me. Nunetics Institute, as one word, .org. That's the link for the official website for this class and for everything else that Instructor Bilal produces. So you can actually purchase most of your books now off of the website. You can send donations to the Institute via that website also. All right, but for the email addresses and the phone numbers and stuff that I need for my personal list, so that when I send out gifts and graduation certificates and all of that, I need your email address and your full name and number for that purpose. So I hope that's understood.
Yeah, and it's extremely important because, we're anticipating growth, quite a bit of it coming into 2023. So your participation and your cooperation, just trying to make sure that we have all necessary information and that you're starting to take more and more responsibility for whatever contribution you're going to make to the Institute. We're at the point right now where everyone needs to get active, more active than you have been in the past. So wherever you are, plan on stepping it up.
Indeed. Just to put it lightly.
Yeah.
Yeah, listen, we have some really talented and professional people who have already stepped forward and said, Instructor, I'd love to help you. I would love to help you. I'm good in this technical aspect and, video production or marketing. And you'd be surprised what kind of people have stepped forth who are part of this class now. They're here practically every week, quietly, but they want to assist us. And I need for all of you to do your part before those people can effectively help us go where it is we're wanting to go. Because I want all of you to be the beneficiaries of this inheritance also. And you will be, whether you can speak in front of a microphone and a camera or not. It has nothing to do with your talents behind a camera or in front of a microphone, nothing at all. It has to do with you finding your niche. But if you never communicate with me, I'll never know what you're interested in or what you can do. We also have we're going to have two new junior learners. We've already had them join us, actually. There's a sister here, originally from Africa. She's living in California now. You saw her about a week or so ago. Well, she's got two daughters. I think one is 9 years old and one is 10. So they'll be doing what I'm doing with junior learner Mahdi, but not in the same class. All of them will have their separate classes addressing their separate concerns as far as Nunetics go. But I had a wonderful, I'm going to ask their mother if it's okay for me to share the replay of my interaction with her two daughters, because they are just beyond what you think a 9 and 10-year-old should be when it comes to learning this Nunetics method. They were already studying it unbeknownst to me. I started asking them questions. They were giving me answers out of the Nunetics book. So about Aleph and A and what A means and all of that. So if it's okay with Sister Judith, we'll send that just to the learners here. Please don't share that with anyone else if she gives us permission to do that. All right. But it's growing. By this time next year, there are going to be dozens of children that we're going to have as junior learners. I already see it. Dozens of children. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Patricia. Patricia, I got your message. Thank you. We'll get that done. Anyone else wanted to say something or ask?
Is the email address nuneticsplus@gmail.com?
Yes. You can use that to either order books. You can still order books from there. But where I want you to send the email addresses and your phone numbers is to that one. Yes. Nuneticsplus, PLUS@gmail.com. But everyone by now should have visited the website to see at least what it looks like. It's going to get better. It's in development. But see what it looks like, because a lot of your works are going to also end up on that website. Amina Adcock, she already has a book out. Others of you, I Abdul Salam and others are producing PDF works and what's going to amount to be a book. All of those books are going to be put on the website, and I don't want a single dime from it. I want you to make all of the money. All right. You show me that you appreciate me by putting what I'm teaching you in play. Just put it in play. Use it. Anyone else?
Imam. Somebody, man.
Yeah, let me do this first, Abdullah. Sahib had his hand up. He did the technical thing. So let me go to him.
My hand up then.
Was that your hand?
Time, so I can get in here early. I miss going.
No, it's fine. You normally do put your hand up, but since he did, I'm going to respect that order. And you
Yes,
come
sir.
right after him. Okay. Sahib, are you still there? Wanting to ask?
Yes, sir. Alhamdulillah.
Okay.
In reference to what you just said about the quality and the quantity, would that how does that apply to the dua, to the salat? Is that the same thing as far as not being able to making so many rakats as far as Allah is concerned with the qualities of it, as opposed to the quantity of the rakats and stuff that we make in prayer?
Yeah, that's a great question. Everything about what salat really means is geared towards the increase in quality, not in quantity.
Okay.
If Allah were to leave that as something to give increase in quantity to, it wouldn't be fair. Because there are some people who can do more physical things, more material things than other people. Allah leaves that as an open-ended opportunity. For people who have more wealth, they should give more. For people who, specialize in certain things, they should automatically know to volunteer to do something that needs to be done in that quantitative area, bring their expertise, in other words. But what Allah has put into the Quran are the best techniques for increasing your quality life as a person who says that they have faith in a source creator. So that's why the changing and manipulating of the language of the Quran, for instance, by taking the word zakah, which in most cases in the Quran always follows the word salah. Wa iqamus salah wa ita'i zakah is the way it's put throughout most of the Quran. But they have told us that zakat was a physical payment of 2.5% of your annual earnings. See, they made it quantitative. But the word zakat has to do with purity. That's qualitative. So what are you missing in the way that they translate that for you? You're running around here trying to scoop up 2.5% of your annual earnings after taxes. But you don't know how much you're supposed to give as a quality contribution to the people around you. So we end up not even giving quality time to our family members. We're so busy in the masjid trying to do the next salat, the next ritual. Some of us driving, we used to drive 5 and 6 miles. We used to drive from Manhattan to Brooklyn trying to make an Asa prayer. Oh, but you get big blessings for that. But says who? That's not in the Quran that you get big blessings for that. But it's in the Hadith. There's the culprit. Not going to get back into that tonight. You wrestle with that one. Got family members that you won't call to prayer, but you want to run to the masjid every night. Especially during Ramadan when you know that food is waiting on you. I got a lot to say about that when Ramadan rolls around again. Allah said Ramadan is the month in which the Quran was revealed. And he says it was for an-nas, all humanity. So why you take your little Muslim self and lock yourself in a masjid every night with only Muslims while the community life suffers? I thought it was for all humanity. Where are you out there teaching all humanity the virtues of Quranic logic? That's what Ramadan is for. If you're doing the opposite, you're missing the whole point. It didn't say Ramadan is the month in which the Quran was revealed for Muslims. Go look at it. It's in Surah 2, 186, I think. 183, I think it starts. Ramadan is the month in which the Quran was sent down as Furqan. Clear discrimination. For who? An-nas, all humans. But you pass by all humans to get to the ones who say they're Muslims. So you can get another chicken leg that you wouldn't have got if your wife cooked it at home. You wouldn't be able to overeat like we mostly do during Ramadan. Most of us are gaining weight during Ramadan. What kind of foolishness is this making in your brain? Because you save nighttime and then you just gorge and then you read a little, you fall asleep in the book, you get it back up and now, oh, I better eat before suhoor. And then you take another 2 and 3 dinners worth of food into your system. And then you can't do nothing all day long because you're too tired. You're too full. So, and they have articles on this now about how sick Muslims are getting around the world during Ramadan because they're overeating and eating the wrong stuff, filling up on sugar and desserts and all, every night, like it's the Eid. Oh, we're going to break you out of that. What we're going to be doing, you don't have to do what I do, but I certainly will be setting the pace for what you should be doing. All right. Did I answer that for you, Sahib?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Right. Okay. Anyone else? Come on, jump in. Abdullah, we didn't hear from you yet, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're always setting the bar. I mean, and your scholarly work never ceases to amaze me. Now, as far as the Adam to, I guess, the latest Prophet Muhammad, should we take all these as metaphor figures?
Good question. Good question. Good question. Don't take any of them and interpret them as I explain them. My findings are my gift from Allah. And nobody listening to me has to agree with my findings. I personally, I don't know, neither do I care whether these people were actual people in history who lived. That's not why Allah put them in the Quran, so that you could determine, well, was Moses a real person? Or maybe Noah was the real person and Moses was. That's not why Allah put it in the Quran. If Allah put it in the Quran, it means that those people are true figures, but it doesn't mean true as your brain interprets true. If there was a flood back in the days of Noah, just ask yourself this common sense question. What good is it for you to know about it 7,000 years later, 10,000 years later? For Christians, if Jesus did walk on water 2,000 years ago, what good is it for you to know that in today's time, Christian? What does that add to your quality of life? Just to know it as history. Oh, Jesus did walk on water. They're going to argue back and forth. He walked on water. Moses did split the Red Sea. No, it wasn't the Red Sea. It was the Reed Sea, because there was a bunch of plants around to say nobody can walk on water. Nobody can cross water on dry land because the rivers split. And people spend years arguing about that stuff. I don't argue about it anymore. It's whatever you want it to be. But I know better than to believe that 5,000 years ago, somebody took a rod and touched the tip of a shore and the waters parted and then turned into blood. I know better than to believe that. And if it did happen, as I said, what good does that do for me in 2023? So I'm going to accept it in a way that benefits me. When I understand all of those things to be archetypes operating in me and around me, and they have no parameters in terms of dates and when they happened, they're happening all of the time. The parting of the Red Sea is happening in my very bloodstream. That's a Red Sea, your bloodstream. So I don't need to know whether Allah created a physical Khalifa, when I know that Khalifas are being created all of the time, every day, every night, inside of human beings, inside of populations. These things are always coming. Adam is always being created and missioned. Isa always being missioned. Muhammad, that you're reading about, or you think you're reading about in the Quran as a physical person 1,400, 1,500 years ago, also an archetype. For me, you don't have to accept that. I get more out of understanding him as an archetype of human qualitative life than I get out of believing that he was an Arab in the middle of Mecca for 10 years and then in Medina for 13 years and then die. I get more out of believing that he's an archetype that lives forever as what the Quran calls Rahmatul lil Alameen. That's what the Quran calls Muhammad. And Rahmatul lin Nas. a rahmah. We just discussed that in this lecture tonight. And Allah says that Muhammad is a rahmah for an-nas, for the entirety of humanity. So what in the hell do I look like spending 90% of my time amongst people who already say, I believe that? Now, what about the rest of the 90% of the world who probably never even heard it yet? I have to design my skills and talents and point them in the direction of those multitudes of people who never heard what the Quran had to say. How are we going to blame those people for being antithetical towards the Quran and Muslims and burning the Quran and all that foolishness? How are you going to blame them when you never made an effort to explain to them what the Quran actually is? When you introduce it to them, it's just a 7th century Arabic book that praises the glory of Arab history. That's not what the Quran is, so stop that. And understand it on the level of what it calls itself, and that is, it is a book of fitrah. It is a book of ayat, instructing signs, and the instructing signs in the Quran are talking mostly about things happening in nature, not in a written text. There was no written text to begin with. So when the Quran talks about ayat, it's not talking about word. When it said ikra, read, it didn't mean read. I don't know why that's difficult for people to understand. If those were the first words delivered to Muhammad, ikra, and they tell us that means read, and then we ask, what was he reading? And they say, well, the book wasn't here yet. Was he reading a text? No. Well, how was he reading if there was no text? We don't ask these simple common sense questions. So ikra can't mean read. I don't care how many scholars translate that into their translation. Read, exclamation point. Ikra cannot have meant to read a text. And let me tell you what the difference is. When you read, you're using these two eyes as they focus on a two-dimensional surface called a page. A page, that's two-dimensional. The book is just the eyes to the page. That's no experience, that's just two-dimensional. And then you have to know letters in order to read. They look at me cross-eyed when I say I'm teaching Arabic letter for letter, but how can you read unless you've already recognized letters? Now you don't want to know what the letters mean, so you'll know why the word means what it means. It's ridiculous. But if I experience creation as a three-dimensional phenomenon, we live in 3 dimensions, basically. And I'm experiencing creation, not just by going out into the yard and feeling what the tree feels like or what a leaf feels like, but now I can smell the maple on the tree. I hope y'all are understanding what I'm saying. You're using as many senses as you can when you're studying nature in its 3rd dimensional attraction. And how can you get that out of a book? You're not going to smell any maple coming off of the page that says maple tree. You have to begin learning to experience nature with your 5 basic senses connected to a 3-dimensional reality. So the ikra is reading, but you have to learn how to read 3rd-dimensional creation. What's the other word for it? Al-fitra. What's the other word for it? Mother Nature. You are supposed to be reading the instructions that are coming to you from Mother Nature. Period.
Alhamdulillah.
Anyone else?
Yeah, but just one more thing.
Yes.
But Islam,
I can't hear you.
You're
Your microphone
muted.
is muted.
It wasn't his turn to speak anyway.
Oh,
No, it's okay. He was finishing up on a question that he was that Abdul? Yeah, okay.
I just want to just be done. But Islam did spread with the event of Prophet Muhammad.
With the what?
The event of Islam did spread across the peninsula, Arabian Peninsula. They went out through Africa, through Asia, and in Europe. So there's evidence of that concretely.
Yeah, that's not what we're debating.
Right.
We're not debating the spread.
No, it's not a debate.
We're not contesting whether there were people who spread the deen far. Of course they were. That's how it ended up across the world. What we're talking about what I was talking about to end off with wasn't just the word ikra, meaning read.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Fine.
All right.
Good enough.
All right. Next person.
I don't know whether I'm next or not, but I had a comment.
Yes. Good to see you.
Yes, alhamdulillah. You know, in the book, The Four Birds, you make the point that, quoting Imam Muhammad, that with the birth of religion came the birth of Satan. And what we're talking about right now, I see that as the objectification of humanity, of human life.
Mhm.
And in that, all of the way religion itself had been ritualized, and it really serves as a substitute for the true meaning of Salat. This is the elevation of our energies to really come into the fullness of the Deen, which is opposed to what you just talked about, the three-dimensional life as opposed to the two-dimensional life. And that's what I see as this objectification. And, you know, it's like we need to hold on. I see us really wanting to hold on to this, the way we perceive the Salat and other things that we've been conditioned to practice, you know, in what has become the religion, as opposed to really coming to the fullness of the Deen. So I just see that some resistance in us to let go of that understanding or that relationship that we've had to the way we've been conditioned to perceive this Deen that we have inherited. That's it.
That's enough.
Assalamu alaikum.
That's hold on.
No, I'm next.
You got it. You got, you got it. I'm
Okay.
gonna stand down.
Uh,
Let me just say to Waleed,
So,
those were points well made. Well made. Okay, I'm waiting on you.
well,
Yes, ma'am.
so I'm listening to you talking about the Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim as parts of nature. So it applies to, does it apply? I'm thinking it applies to the masculine and feminine principles, but as dielectrics, as say, you know, Allah uses those two principles for insulation so that it doesn't become corrosive in the environment. I recently had some dielectric work done in my home. So this is why, you know, I think I was trying to explain to you that some stuff is happening to me, you know, on a physical, metaphysical, I don't know what level I'm on, but I had this dielectric stuff going. So you were talking about nature.
Lost your sound. You muted yourself by accident. There
The
you go.
masculine and feminine principle as dielectric insulators. You know, it's like this energy is coming from Allah and it's filtering through. You know, it's like one cable. The masculine and feminine principles combine. Anyway, I don't want to confuse anybody. I think you understand what I'm saying, but maybe other people may not understand.
And I'll say to those, I mentioned at the beginning of this topic a couple of weeks ago that it was only for those who were interested in being deep sea divers. So if a person can't handle this level, that's kind of on them. But I'll leave it at this, that when you look at the Basmala, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, there are three aspects to it. There's Allah being mentioned and his signature or his name, so to speak. And then there's ar-Rahman, and then there's ar-Rahim. So Allah represents that dielectric inertia plane we were talking about, that neutral point, right? And Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim represent the masculine, feminine components that branch out like a Taurus field from that central pillar. And that is faith in Allah. And Allah is neutral. Allah is the one who will punish you or reward you, according to the Quran.
Alhamdulillah. I just
Now,
want to make sure
they
my
do-
thinking is clear.
Yeah, they do have interchanging, we'll call them frequencies. Their frequencies do interchange, just like the attributes of mother and father change in the household. If father ain't there to get you, mama will become daddy and whip your butt. And sometimes his mother is not there to comfort you, daddy will take you in his arms and say, oh, that happened to you at school today, son. Well, look, we ain't gonna worry about that. We ain't gonna. And he becomes mother. So they're not hard and fast. You
They're
follow?
enhancers. They're enhancers.
They are enhancers. They are complementary to
Yeah.
each other. And that's what we want to understand. Just like each and every one of us have masculine, feminine qualities in us. Nobody is 100% masculine. No woman is 100% feminine. Can't happen. The universe doesn't work like that. However, the universe is much more feminine than it is masculine. And that's why it's called universe, womb. This is a great womb. Ancient people out of India, I believe, called it the cosmic egg. This is just a great womb out of which everything is being born. All right. So we should be able to keep our balance. I want to address
Thank
one
you.
thing that's in the comment question box. It says Elijah Muhammad said the devil was the skunk of the planet Earth. And they asked the question, what color is the skunk? Well, the skunk, on the most part, is black and white. And that's the wisdom in those teachings. That the thing that has been stinking up the whole world is this differentiation between black and white.
Yeah.
Racism. That's all he was saying. It's stinking up the entire, you might mistake it for a nice, soft cat until you go up and pet it. And it lifts that tail on you and lets loose a smell that I don't care how many baths you take, it ain't gonna leave you that easy. That's how racism is. So there's a lot of wisdom in what W.D. Farad left, but it doesn't make him God in person. He learned that from somebody. Did the person he learned that from, was he God before him? Now you got a problem, because everybody who taught it to the next person, that person was a God. And then before them, the person who taught that person was a God. And then, and that's what the Nation of Islam eschatology ends up being: a succession, a pantheon of God after God after God after God, leading up to the greatest of them all, which in their estimation is W.D. Farad. How in the world can W.D. Farad be the greatest God that ever walked the planet Earth? And he wasn't the creator. And he didn't know everything. They say he had to go to school to be taught. What kind of God is this that needs education? What kind of God is this that needed to sneak in amongst white people by masquerading as a white man? And to masquerade as a white man, he knew before he was born that he needed to be born out of a white woman's womb. Really? How did he know that? He wasn't even here, but he knew that I'm going to direct my father some way psychically to have sex with a pure white woman. That's what they called her. Baby G, the mother of Farad, a pure white woman. He was jet black, according to the lessons. So how you see the black and white there again, the skunk thing? That's what messes up the world. When you come to the world with ideologies like that, that don't make sense. You stink up the world.
Well, before you continue, I don't want to dominate the conversation or anything like that. But that map that you gave earlier in your presentation tonight, can we also apply that basmala to that map? The nature map that you had. You said you're gonna.
Yeah, I wouldn't apply it to that. That would be confusing. You can do it if I send
I
it.
could do it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I could do it for me. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah. If it were two separate things that I was dealing with, then I'd say apply it to this and apply it to that. You can apply it to electromagnetism.
Yeah.
Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, for sure.
Mhm.
You can, there's a lot of tools or dualities that you can apply it to.
Yeah. Okay. And thank you, Brother Adi, for your patience.
My pleasure. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum salam.
Stevie Wonder said, if we're doing things that we don't understand, it's superstition,
Well, no, you missed the line right after that.
and you suffer.
That's right.
Yes, superstition is in the way. But what for me, of all the things that you said, everybody, this is a one hit. This is one of the hits that turned me around when you shared with us that where does it say in the Quran you're supposed to beat the woman? I mean, everybody they can show you this right here. But numetically, we took each individual letter, then put it together. So we could see that in our normal behavior, beat does not actually mean the physical. It means that if something is happening and between the male and the female, like the police do, they take the male out the house. They go, and they said the white shirt that he has on is called the beaters. And it actually doesn't mean what the police used to have when they used to have a section that they worked in. It was called the beat. Only those who take what they manufactured root words and don't actually take each individual letter to define, to describe what's going on. Most of us come with a pre-existing manner. Just say, for instance, like Santa Claus, we already have all this. We have to clear ourselves and purge ourselves from the ritualistic thinking that the social schemers has put in our mind, because before anything is said, we already have something that's contrary to what we've given. And the best way to purify that, in my observation and my study, is Nunetics. It puts it so walled down, makes it so clear and transparent that there's no ambiguity. The most things that as our people, we want to argue. We want to listen and then argue, not listen or hearing what anybody else said. It's like we want to jump in like double dutch. Now it's my turn. But what did I say? No, I heard you, but no. Nunetics makes things so clear that there's no more arguing. It's just like you said, okay, you got your, you do what you do, I do what I do. I'm not going to stop you from doing your thing, nor allow you to stop me from doing my thing. You do what you do, I'll do what I do, and we'll also kind of what the other decide. There comes a salam, there comes a peace over finally, like the song At Last. Life doesn't have to be endured and conquered. We can allow ourselves to have homeostasis. We can allow ourselves to be salaman. We could be at peace with ourselves. And therefore, just like the Quran is for all mankind, that should be our attitude of gratitude, that La ilaha illallah and Allah Qadir. No more extra stuff.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that, but we're at the time now. It's like back in the day. You gotta put your stuff on now. We're going out. We're gonna meet some people.
Indeed.
And we're gonna share this with them. It's like the so nice coming home to you. Baytullah. It's so nice that people come to our house, wherever that is, and feel at home.
Yeah.
But you gotta say you gotta go, y'all. I'm closing. I'm gonna ask you one more question. That's that I believe that you're giving us. And it's because I'm gonna end it like this. We made a covenant with Allah. I really want you to know, we made a covenant with Allah. And Allah said, I'm closer than you in your jugular vein.
Yes,
you remember me and I'll remember you. We got to remember from whence we came. And Nunetics says, act like you know.
Yeah.
Sure.
Alhamdulillah. Instructor,
Yes.
yes. So when you were pointing out the Redeemer, the DM, the Dean and Dean, I also heard the words, the word, take out the E, put the O in there, dome. And I heard redome, like in free, with the word freedom, freedome, the original word, to redome also. And also it have a connection with damn blood, which
That's right.
social nature also.
That's right.
And
you get a transfusion.
yes, to re-socialize, yes.
And listen,
much in
when
there,
you get a
yes.
transfusion of blood, you can't take just anybody's blood.
Oh, yes.
And the Ar-Rahim aspect of Allah's involvement, you can't take just anybody. You got to go for the qualified. See?
Yes.
The quantified, Ar-Rahman. The qualified, Ar-Rahim. You have to qualify to give blood.
Yes.
As much as your intentions might be to help that person, if you got all kinds of stuff going on in your blood that's not compatible with their blood or that might be injurious, if you give your blood to that person, it ain't gonna happen.
Yes.
And see, these natural incidences in life are teaching us the Quran.
Yes.
But we're not able to make the connection because the world of so-called scholarship, Islamic scholarship, has divorced our minds from fitrah-based learning and connections in this logic. Yes. And I'm telling you that the number one promoter of that natural logic has been W.D. Muhammad. If I saw it somewhere else, I'd tell you about it. Not that other people don't have it, not that other people don't have excellent ways of explaining the Quran. They do. I work with them almost every day and every week, if not every day. But I'm telling you, what has ignited my intellect the most has been the explanations that Allah has blessed to come through the mouth of Imam Wallace D. Warithuddin Muhammad. Not because of who he is as some special flesh and blood on earth. His flesh and blood is no more special than yours or mine. He lived, he died. He has children, he's got headaches, he's got problems, he had illnesses, he had all of the things that the typical human has. But that has very little to do with what Allah has blessed to come through his intellect as language. And that's what I uphold. Whatever he was as a father, his children have to deal with that. Whatever he was as an uncle, his nieces and nephews have to deal with that. Whatever he was as a husband, his wives, or whatever's going on there, which I have no interest in knowing about because it's none of my business. They have to deal with that. But as far as what Allah allowed him to let free on the public ears, that logic, I am obligated to give the credit to where credit is due. And although I tell you that is primarily because of my study of Imam Muhammad's language and logic, you always hear me qualify that by saying he's just a human like all the rest of us. And you say, yeah, that's right, Imam was just a human. But if I say Muhammad the Prophet was just a human, now you get mad at me.
That's all he was.
You're ready to get mad at me when the Quran tells you that. And I'm just a mortal like all the rest of you. You want to argue with Allah now? Yes, Shafiq, I'm listening.
Brother instructor, you know, we are blessed to be on this journey. We who have been in the Nation of Islam, experienced that time, experience of 30 some odd years with Imam Warithuddin Muhammad. And now we're in this reality, in this class, and being able to receive this knowledge and information. This is Allah's blessing. It's like going from kindergarten or grade school to junior high school to high school and then on to college. You know, it's been a process. It's been a evolving.
Yes.
So we're ready for the knowledge that we're receiving this time in our life.
I believe you. I believe that every single person who's with me right now is situated to stay.
Right. I see it.
I know it.
I was thinking about some of the things that you said that it kind of makes it make you see the things that we have in common. When you were talking about how you came in contact with the message, the book, The Message to the Black Man, and I had my sister to visit me and bring me the book, you know, and we, you know, we as believers, we've had these different occurrences to let us know that, you know, you're on the right track. Just keep on going, keep on learning, and keep on evolving. And we'll be reaching our final goal, you know.
With the help of Allah.
So I'm learned a lot and still learning, and I see it as a journey, and it's God's blessing.
Absolutely. Thank you for that contribution. There was a lot of garbling noise in your phone. I don't know if it's the phone itself, but you might want to look into that. If you can still hear me.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
And-
Might
and
just be how
Dr.
you were holding it.
I
Yes.
think Yahya Hassan.
Yeah, I was going to call on him next. Yes.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Brother, what
You
you
look, like
doing?
you look like a true cosmic man there, boy. That background you got.
Well, thank you. What you're doing is you are promoting what essentially is upsetting the social contract around the world of people not thinking. And this not only is contagious, but it's dangerous to those who want you to simply do what they say, the way they say, when they say.
You got it.
Just as you do not tell anybody how to think about what you have talked about, will get people to thinking. And one of the most dangerous persons to someone who doesn't have good is a thinking person.
Yeah.
And imagine that you begin to get the world to thinking.
It's happening as we
Imagine,
speak.
yes.
That's what brought you here.
Well,
Yeah, you're a very valuable
what
contribution.
brought me here was curiosity, and what has me here is thinking.
There you go. There you go. And we'll give you no reason to leave because we love thinkers. And I'm happy that you're making your contribution in the time that Allah allowed you, because I know you've been listening to this for quite a while. Good to see you. That's what we mean by being active. You all heard William speak about wanting to be more active instead of passive. Well, Yahya Hassan is a great example of people who are now stepping forward past the threshold of just being passive in the background, listening and studying on his own. And he's beginning to make his contributions. And as he's doing that, I'm learning more about him. And I'm already having ideas in my mind about how I want to better utilize his skills. He's a great speaker, great analyzer of information. So the podcast opportunities are coming up in the month, next 2 months, 3 months into next year. Most of these people who are stepping forward now are going to be the hosts and the co-hosts of brand new opportunities to share what it is you're learning with the world. And believe me, the world is going to be listening. Trust me when I tell you that, with the help of Allah, the entire planet is going to be listening to this Nunetics method. It can't help but happen if things continue to go the way they're going in the world. And if it doesn't happen for adults, trust me, they're going to do what Judith is doing. They're going to begin saying, I don't have the time to relearn a lot of stuff, but my children are in 5th grade, 7th grade, going into college, and they've heard you and they love you. So I predict that the majority of people that will leave out of the year 2023 are going to be young adults, college age, high school age, and even grade school age. There are going to be dozens of them by the end of next year. And that's why you need to qualify yourself, because I can't teach them all. All right. Alaikum salam.
This is Muhammad Alam Ali. I would like to say that we have evolved into what I consider and elevated social life. And I'm talking about in terms of where we are. And when I come in contact with my brother Gary and Abdul, and when we talk, I see the growth in all of us, and I see how we have been elevated. And so that means to me that when we go among people in a social gathering, we should feel very comfortable and fit right in, because we understand the nature of what it means to be a real human being. And that's important.
Yeah.
And that's very powerful and very dynamic. And like I say, with the individuals that that I contact with on a regular basis, I hear it, I see it, and I feel it in all of us. So praise be to Allah. Allah has blessed us. Thank you very much.
And you have been growing exponentially, my friend. Over these
Alhamdulillah.
past couple of years. I see it, I hear it, I testify to it. All right. I see Zaid.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum.
Yeah. Alaikum salam.
Alhamdulillah. I just want to say something. You had the word environment.
Mm-hmm.
You can see Fedroon in that word.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say that the Varun is the same as Fedroon numerically.
Yeah, you might have missed that. You might not have been in the queue when I spoke on that, but I did mention that.
Oh, okay. Alhamdulillah.
You'll hear it in the replay.
Yeah, and also, what's something else you were saying? Oh yeah, when Allah says that this world is an illusion, and that lets you know there is something missing in the way we think, and then how we looking at scripture. When Allah says something like that, it's very important for us to think about how we think and what Allah is pointing to. And Imam Wardi Muhammad said in the book that was put together concerning his Quranic, the book on the Quran, he said in that book that what was it? He said that if you don't understand what Allah is pointing to, you would never know what the Quran is saying. If what he's directing you to as far as what's going on in this world,
mm-hmm.
you will never understand the Quran, no matter how much you read it and study it.
Fact.
So I thought that was a very valid point.
And all of it points to the idea of study. Be a good student, as he said. He said, never lose your student's disposition, no matter how knowledgeable you think you've become. There's always going to be much more knowledge that you don't know than you ever will know. So let that keep you humble when you learn. Try not to refer to yourself as a scholar or a learned person or anything like that, but feel free and comfortable in referring to yourself as a student of the Fitrah, especially. You can carry that title any way you go. I'm a student of the Fitrah. All right. And Zaid, do me a favor.
Yes.
Remind me to send, I don't think I sent out your last telephone lecture, but it was so impactful. It was so powerful in terms of your connections. Please remind me to send that out to this group before the next few days go by.
Alhamdulillah. I thought that was the worst lecture I ever did.
That's why you're not supposed to be the judge, my friend.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
All right.
I'm doing something else. I was looking at the word laugh when it said that Noah's son laughed. And in the Hebrew language, it don't mean what we has been looking at as laughing. I found that to be very interesting. And also in the word laugh, if you look at the word L-A-U-G-H, it's the same as lug. So it's like lugwe. I ain't trying to teach nobody nothing, but I'm just
why not?
I just came across that and I thought it was important.
That's fine. There's a lot of other connections there. So you're on the right trail.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Lugwe, tongue. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. You know what lugha is, right?
I couldn't hear you.
You know what the lugha is in Arabic?
Oh, yeah, sport and play.
No, that's lahwan.
What now?
If I say lughatul Arabiya,
In Arabia?
yeah, if I said the phrase lughatul Arabiya,
Language, right?
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So laughing is a language unto itself, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, keep making those connections. That's what we're supposed to be doing. And then you take a word, even if it's in English, and you spin it backwards. So laugh, you spin it backwards, fall.
Fall and fail. Yes.
That's right. Failure, fall.
A foot. I think no, maybe. Aloof.
Aloof. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And somewhere in the course of teaching during next year, I'm going to be explaining what those little tricks in the English language are when they combine an AU, GH, and that kind of stuff, because they all have meanings.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, we should be
Yum, yum, eat
pronouncing
'em
it.
up.
We should say laugu for the word laugh. LAUGH. Why is it LAF? Right. Put more letters to explain something that they could have used less letters for, like phone. How come phone is not FONE? Why is it PH? But we don't say pahone. So English is, I think W.D. Farrar called it a language of trick knowledge.
Yes. Yes.
Arabic is what you see it as. The way it's written, that's the way you have to pronounce it. But English is a whole nother thing. So get the book, The N Word, and a lot of that will be explained to you. That's the second book I wrote after Nunetics, The N Word. And that's insights into the corruption of the English letter system.
That's interesting, instructor, because I was looking at the word, they had those Pfizer commercials. Well, of course, everybody know Pfizer are the people who, the jab. And I noticed that, I was noticing that they put P, he spelled Pfizer, but I was just noticing, yeah, they have the P and the F. And I said, so why didn't they just, take off? I've never seen them do it like that, although like they did the F sound to PH also in English, but I know that's one of their technologies.
Yeah. Well, see, certain Indo-European languages have these kinds of spin-offs of words and sounds, and not all of them are evil intent type of developments. Some of them are just the flavor of the culture that produced that particular sound or that particular language. And it interchanges with other words that do carry those particular letters. So that's a part of the morphology of language itself. That's why it's very important that you learn Quranic Arabiya. Once you learn that, you're going to be learning the fitra-based pronunciation for each of those sounds. And then you're going to gain greater insight into when those sounds become other sounds or other pronunciations. And you'll be able to understand better, I think, why they made those choices for those particular words that carry those letters. Now, that's a lot to chew on, but it begins with your understanding of fitra-based sound. The infant understands fitra-based sounds. The infant will make fitra-based sounds. Immediately after it's born, it gives you the first vowel, ah, by crying. Ah. That's the first sound of every human baby. In China, doesn't matter. Zimbabwe, doesn't matter. Indonesia, it doesn't matter where you're born. That human baby is going to cry with the same sound, the vowel, open vowel, A, ah. And if that baby is being fed in accordance to the fitra, the mother's going to bring that baby to her breast. And when the baby begins suckling on her breast, the wide open mouth that was a minute ago saying, is going to come down on that nipple and start going, That's the M sound. So if you put those two sounds together, you get the word for mother in many languages. M. Open the mouth, coming down on the nipple, suckling, pulling out the nutrients. In English, we just say mom, but it's really just the word You see how natural language is supposed to be?
Yes, right.
One of the things in English is that you're told directly when people use the term "put English on the ball."
You have
For
to
those
repeat
not
that. You're
familiar with
breaking
that,
up a little bit. You have to repeat that again.
That's fine.
I said one thing about English is that it is pretty open about how tricky it is about the term "putting English on the ball." That makes the ball to bounce in a way other than you normally would expect, just as English is oftentimes used to say something other than what the words mean.
Yeah.
But it's an indication
Yeah, it
that
is.
even the
Thank
English
you, Talal.
recognize it as a trick language.
Yeah, and there are tricks all the way through it. But there's deep insight into it. You have to understand this about all languages. All languages are revealed by God. Not just Arabic, not just the Quran. Every language. No human would be able to speak any language of communication if Allah had not given them that ability.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
They'd still be around here.
That's right. That's right.
Right?
It all comes from creation.
Yeah. All you have to do is figure out where the interruption took place. Because if I give you the word baby, it means something. And it means exactly what the word baby is. Baby is from the Semitic language, also Arabic, particularly. And bab means door, threshold. From this side to the next side. That's what the baby just did when it was born out of its mother. It came through the bab. They call it door, but it means the space between two spaces or two areas. So when the baby left the womb, came onto this side of the life, that was crossing over the bab. That's why they call it baby. Baby means my threshold. That's the mother speaking, baby. That elongated E in that Y, baby, B-A-B-Y, it means mine. So when I say mommy, I mean my mother. When I say daddy, I mean my father. See? And it's the same thing in Arabic. When you put that elongated E sound on the end of a word in Arabic, it's possessive. It means my. So languages are really not that different. They're only different in the measure that the people go and manipulate and tweak the meanings to make it say something other than what the fitrah wants it to say.
Mudaf ilayhi.
Yeah. We say Rabbi, my Lord, right?
No.
Yeah, you got it, right? All right.
And yeah, and another thing, for babble or baby, which is I guess the root word of babble. And also when you babble, you're not really speaking, you're just talking, and it's not clear.
Yeah.
And yes, that's where the Tower of Babel comes, when a lot of confused tongues or languages.
Yeah, that's right.
A lot of chaos.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of babies in one room just blah, 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 that's babble.
Like mumbo jumbo as it means in grammar.
Yeah.
Yeah, except they slapped that on the African. They called what they heard coming from them mumbo jumbo. Because they couldn't understand. Yes.
I had one thing I wanted to share. And looking at this letter X again, and I think about it now because we're at that time they call Christmas, and they use the X and the must together, but when I listen at the sound of X, not just the name X, but the sound that it makes, it's a combination of the K and the S. Because like in box, you can hear it as it comes out. And the K represents having a grasp, to grasp with the hand, right? And the S we know means the intellect, the singing intellect. So when I hear X, it's like it's becoming like a code word almost. When I see X on a word, it has a reference to having control over the intellect.
Yes.
And you can hear it in that Christmas thing they got control over the thinking. And mass reminds me of your comments on muse, to think, So they got control over your thinking during that time. And it's all about separating you from your money. So
Yeah.
that's what I want to share. Look for words with that X in it. I looked at the television companies like Xfinity.
Movies like the X-Men. The X-Men. How about that?
Yeah, the X-Men, HBO Max.
Yeah. But you know who started all that?
About control.
Yeah, you know who started most of that?
No, sir. Go ahead.
W.D. Farrar.
I'm not surprised.
What was their last names during those days? They take your name away from you.
Yeah, I had one of those X's myself.
Because Mr. Farrad's focus was not on the level of understanding that the average Black person, quote unquote, would bring to his group. He, on the most part, wasn't even talking to the average so-called Black person. Mr. Farrad was talking to the high-level sophisticated and philosophical scientists of his day. So he was dealing more with the nature of genetic manipulation in his lessons than he was dealing with anything else. So when he said X, he's referring to X chromosome and how to manipulate that X and how to crucify that X. 23 female, 23 male. You get it? Yeah. And it's only when you turn the human being from being perpendicular to being sideways that you get your X in the form of a human body, right? Yeah. If you're just standing up, it's the cross. If they tilt you.
That's right. The tilted cross. You're right.
And X means used to be. My ex-wife,
Right.
So there's a lot of satire in their language, as Imam Muhammad told us. Lots of satire in their language. But I want you to focus on the idea of the manipulation of the genetics, because during his satirical explanation of the creation of the white man on the island of Pelan 6,600 years ago by the big-headed scientist called Yaqub.
Okay.
Remember that?
Yes, sir, I do.
Well, what did he spend his life's work doing? Manipulating DNA.
Yeah.
Just like they're doing now. If you understand how far ahead of time Farad was, they weren't even talking about genetics in 1920s and 1930s. Not to where it would become a feature of somebody's teachings.
Right.
Separating the brown gene from the Black gene, whatever that means. I know what it means. Right? Why would that become a feature of his teaching? He wasn't talking on the physical level. He was talking on the metaphysical level. Black means nature. Black means what we're calling now fitra. Brown means education. And it's interesting, it would turn up in the Brown versus Board of Education.
That's true.
Those are signs that Allah leaves for you to follow. Breadcrumbs. So even in the understanding of what happened between Musa and his asking his people to sacrifice the cow, what was one of the questions? What color was she? And the answer came back, one word to describe three different colors. We'd call it saffron. But in the language, it can be either yellow, red, or brown. How now, brown cow? And they call the cow brown. They like that term brown cow because brown means to chew on information, like the cow chews, because the cow has two stomachs. So it regurgitates and it chews on the same stuff over and over again. That's just the active mind that it's talking about. So in saying slay the heifer, it's talking about slaying a particular academic environment also. That's producing a society of regurgitators. Like I said earlier about people's opinions. He said it, I believe it. Oh, he said that? But you just keep regurgitating what somebody else said. And it ended up in Mr. Faraz's name, Farad, as compared to parrot, as I said earlier. It means to take what he said, and now you do your part with it. And then you pass it on, and the person you pass it on to, they do their part with it. So even the word part is related to the word farad. F and P are interchangeable. D and T are interchangeable. You cannot escape Nunetics. It's already out in the universe. No one can refute these findings because you'd be arguing with Mother Nature, not with me. You'd be arguing with what Allah put into nature to defeat your logic. And it's fitra-based logic. It's not scholarly logic that we're using in Nunetics. It's the logic of creation itself. Imam Muhammad called it creation-based logic. And your arms are too short to box with God, as we used to say. So that's how that goes. Well, thank you for that contribution.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Imam, you know what? That Yaku history about him changing the name of Israel in the Bible and wrestling with his brother. I mean, and I know you're not going to go into the history of Yaku, but there's a lot of, you know that.
Not today. We'll wait for February. We'll wait for the month called February, because a lot of you will be worrying about what all that means. So we'll go into it then. All right, we'll have a time for that. But we're gaining too many people from across the planet now to go back and concentrate on dogma. That's why I put out the book From Cult to Cultivation. If you want to understand that history succinctly, make sure that you have that book.
I'm gonna get more than that.
Yeah. Okay, folks, gotta go. But thank you all for being with me.
Thank you.
And for your participation. We appreciate this. This was a very, very
Thank you very much.
nicely done class.
Yeah, very much. Praise be to Allah. Salam alaikum.
All right.
All right.
So
Assalamualaikum.
take care of your duty. You know, a new semester is coming up on us. I told you that you get a 75%, a $75 discount if you register. Someone asked